Welcome
Hello.
to Calling Sacred Cows. This dude here is Steven Stutz. I'm Matt Lina. You can read it. It's my name, I think. And there's Steven's name over there.
Yes.
So, but for those of you like me who can't read and are just pretending, you'll just have to take our word for it. Of course, we could just mislabel ourselves too.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Very true.
So let's see if the live stream is actually working.
All right.
Ah, it seems
Check.
seems to be. It seems to be working.
All right. Let's check. Make
So
sure.
you can log in and do that whole upvoting thing so that we get more viewers.
All right. Yep. It is live.
Great. Oh boy! So from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. So, thoughts.
Well, interestingly enough, I think there might be a hole in that, like right off the bat.
You do?
I just think like that just goes out and says that everyone's kind of like indebted to everyone else and right away. Like I just it's it sort of just sounds like stealing to me almost. I could be wrong.
All right.
But like it's like, well, you have this thing, so hey, give it to this person who sucks at it,
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense,
Yeah, if
like,
you really can, then give it to someone who can't but needs it.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's sort of like, yeah, it just reminds me of Harrison Bergeron, like again, the book where there's no, everyone's equal, but if if you're smarter, they put shit in your head, and if you're more athletic, they put weights on you,
and if
etc.
if you have a good focus, they put this beeper into your ear that beeps every so often to distract you from whatever you were thinking of, and
that's like for smart,
whatever it was, so that everyone like has
right.
an
So
IQ
it seems to me like quite similar, like sort of. It's like, well, I'm good at this thing. Do I want to like do it for someone who sucks at it, like, or can't do this thing? Like, is that what maybe I do? Maybe it's my family member or something. But like, do I want to be forced to do that? No.
Hello, Daniel.
I mean,
hello,
I think,
Caleb. Anyhow,
I think if it's something like that you think personally, if it's something like a personal like mantra you have, or like a personal, like, okay, like that's fine. Like, I think that's actually like good, right? It's like, well, I'm good at this, so I'm going to help people. Like, that's a good thing to have. But to like, for that to be the mindset of everyone, and that sort of to go to everyone, I think that's almost just unreasonable. Or I think it just is unreasonable.
So as a universal law, you're saying that just does not work. If I understand you correctly.
No. Correct. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to make a suggestion. Now, I'm going to come down on the side of the communists here.
All right.
Or at least come down on the side of Karl Marx, and I'm going to see how this whole thing plays out. What if I said, okay, how does a family work? Like, you wind up having mom and dad, and they have these infants. And these little bologna loaves that you need to somehow grow up into adults.
Yes.
So if you're in the process of growing up bologna loaves to become adults, there is some element of from the parents according to their ability to all the family members in accordance with their needs.
Right,
so,
of course.
So what do you say to that?
Well, I would say, if you made everyone have kids and take care of their kids, then it might be more analogous. Like, I think the problem there is like, well, people chose to have kids for the most part, right? We're not going to
basically rape aside,
right? Yes,
rape and abject idiocy aside.
Yeah, right, exactly. People like decide to have kids, and their kids are they mean like a kid, like your own child means a lot more than like your neighbor. Like as much as whatever, love your neighbors as yourselves in the Bible and stuff like that. Like it just isn't really the case. Like I'm gonna like care more for my kid than I do about some random guy.
Mm-hmm.
It just is the fact. So my counterpoint to that, if someone would have brought it up, I would like, well, that's just not really analogous. Like it just isn't.
Okay.
There's yeah. I mean, there's too many other factors going on there.
So you would then concede that within a family, this whole Marxist idea could conceivably work, or maybe even within a very tight-knit community.
Within like a tight-knit thing, whatever you want to call it, I think it's like not bad. Yeah, I mean it'll work within a family. Like that sort of thing is it works in small groups with people and with people who care for each other and stuff like that.
For people who care for each other and who would be willing to give some tough love to the people that aren't pulling their weight. Like if they can. Right. I mean, like it would be something completely different if you're not expecting a Down syndrome kid to do theoretical physics.
Yeah. And you're also not expecting the theoretical physicist to teach the Down syndrome kid, like, oh, you have so much, give it to those who don't have any. Mm-hmm. It's like that's just a waste of their time.
Yeah, but ultimately, like, within the family, you can always, let's say you have like a family with 4 kids, and one of them can't really pull his weight. You still have the other 3 kids plus 2 parents. Like that can conceivably work. But going and saying that all of society needs to go and
if I was thinking of all of society, I think it would break down. Like you, for example, so for those. To me, that reminds me of like if I pictured a bell curve, kind of folding it on top of itself, so that the ends, like the very ends of the bell curve, like okay, so then you have the retarded people on this end, gifted people on this end. The gifted people are helping the retarded people because they have more, they have less. Like that's what I'm expecting. Like you give, you help people with if you're very talented at this, you kind of get almost paired with someone who's like
dead weight.
The opposite, right? And like so, like it all ends up equal in the end because everyone's who has they're helping people like that, and I just think that breaks down as well. Like for people who have a lot and for people who have very very little, like they just become sinks for the people who are real. Like it's like okay, this person is like doing horribly, so let's get a really high performer and make them like kind of just like carry the weight of 2 people almost. Like that's what that seems to me, is like it really like will unfairly kind of hamper the people who are very well off. Like for example, the person who's just above average, it's like, well, I give a little. For the person who's just below average, oh, I receive a little, because I'm okay. And I think that's fine. It's like, okay, like if you have a classroom, picture a classroom, and there's a kid who gets, the class average is a C. Let's just say like good old times, like how it should be. The class average is a C.
Class average is a C, and then top and then top 4% or something is an A, and bottom 4% is an F, and then
there you go. Nice bell curve. Like that would be great. Like we'll pretend the grading system is this ideal. It'd be okay to have the B student helping, or it'd be okay to have the B- student helping the D+ student, right? Like that, it's like I'm above average and I'm a little bit below average there. Or like the C- student, the C+ student helping the C- student. That's even easier to like comprehend. Like that.
Yeah. A couple little hints and tips and tricks here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, it's oh god, this is a great discussion already. Basically, it's not too far off. It's like, well, oh, hey, well, the reason I got a little bit of a higher score was because I knew this, and I put it in, okay, helping hand up, kind of almost. But like when you have like, let's say the A student and the F student, like they're worlds apart. They're completely different. The A student is like, the top percentile. Let's say they're like a high A and the low F. Like this is like the top kid in the class, and this is the bottom kid in the class. And it's like, hey, tutor him. It's like, it's going to be hard. Like there's going to be so much to change. Like you're going to take away from you're going to end up sort of wasting time. I think in the end, like that's what's going to happen. Is basically like, first of all, the top student probably has other like. We're going to assume they didn't just appear there and we're like, oh, you know, it's just easy. We're going to assume they put in work and they studied and they prepared well.
Or they could just be really, really smart, and then the dumbest and the smartest can be smoking dope together and not accomplishing anything.
Exactly. And that very well could happen as well. So yeah, for example, if the kid's very smart, it's like, hey, I have a good brain. I just know how to do things. Be smart. You can't, it's not much to teach.
Be born. Get different genes, dude. That's really
like
helpful.
Pick your parents, man. Like it's not going to happen. If you have
but then you go and you just share your points, right? You don't actually say do that.
You a really good student.
Just take my well, hey, you need take my 30 points or take my 25 points if say 75 is the average. Take my 25 points from me and give them to him.
That's worse, right? And yeah, and there's that happening where it's like,
I mean, that's what Mark suggests.
Like it's like what the grade? Like we just give you the grade.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone gets a C. That is at least from my understanding.
Yeah. So this is already really breaking down a lot more. Like it was breaking down without that. It's breaking down a lot with.
But it's like if the person is completely helpless, then just give him your points. Like it doesn't even say to increase the other people's ability, right? It just is from each according to his ability.
Yeah. And
well, I suppose if one's ability is to help other people, then that might make kind of sense. But then ultimately, the whole thing does break down once you start introducing scale, and once you start introducing compulsion.
Right, and that's like for example, I tutor ACT online, and I'm actually like doing quite well with it now.
Oh, really? And, what a surprise!
What a surprise! But I pick my students. Like I want them to have a 28 or higher already, pretty much. Like I don't want. And like I'm fine with mid-20s as well, but I don't want like there's plenty of students on the tutoring app who I read their profiles like they got a 19. It's like they got a 17. This one person got an 11 and then a 16, and I was like I'm like I don't know what to do. Like they're like this person needs, you know, in a lot of time like I saw
this person does not need to be going to college.
Yeah, they just don't like. That's what I want to say. Like that, like just don't go to college. Like you don't need that. You're not going to benefit from that.
The entire environment. You're literally going to either have to have the entire environment cater to you, pander to you, and dumb everyone else down on account of you, or you're going to flunk out. That's basically what that means. That's what an 11 on an ACT means.
Yeah,
it either means that you're taking it at way too young of an age and you don't have any kind of background whatsoever, or it means you're just not cut out for college.
Yeah, it's like an 11. Like for example, to like put this in perspective for viewers who might not, like a monkey got a 12 on the ACT. Like an actual monkey got a 12. By filling in the bubbles. Like, if you guess on everyone, you're probably going to get a 12.
It's like an educated ape with a pen can get a 12 on an ACT.
Yeah, an actual ape. Like think about that. It's an actual monkey. Like, holy... I know a girl from my high school who got a 15. And I'm like... I'm like, holy crap.
But if you get worse than randomly filling in the bubbles, like, if you get worse than a 25% on an ACT...
Yeah.
It's like, that takes effort. Or
it really does. That's like, well, I think it would be really hard. Like I'd actually have to. I couldn't just guess. Like I'd have to know the right answer. Like potentially to do that, they would have to be really smart and be like.
Potentially, okay, they would do that. Either that, or they would have just something completely wrong.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be effort. It would just be, or I mean, it would be effort obviously because you'd be using your brain to come up with the wrong.
Like I would have to try to get a grade that low. Like I really would. Like I'd actually have to solve the problem, get it right, and then just pick the wrong one. Like it's really low.
Or I'm not going to be able to. Or what you could do is bubble in 3/4 of the answers. Just go A, and then solve another 1/4 of them, and get them wrong and get the wrong answer.
Right.
Because if an educated ape gets a 12, then that means basically 12 is the default grade for just.
Right, for just filling it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll get a 12 if you fill them all in like A, like you just will
or A B C D, whatever it might be.
12, right, any pattern you'll get a 12. And like it's so like I'm not gonna just like when I'm tutoring, it just doesn't behoove me to like go out and like apply for those kids. Like the student I'm working with has a 32 right now. Like he had a 32. He has one section that he doesn't even really struggle with, but he gets like inconsistent grades. Like he got a 25 on science. He got a 25 on science on one test, a 31 on the other. Like I'm like, all right, we're just gonna. So
that just means that that's inconsistent knowledge base.
Inconsistent. Yes. So I'm like, okay, that means
that certain problems give him trouble because he doesn't know them as well as certain other ones, and then depending upon the random distribution of subjects that go into any particular test, he's gonna either hit or miss.
Exactly. So
get him to 36. Get him to 36 land and.
Yeah. So to get into 34 plus land, which is pretty much like the top range of scores that you want. Like if you're gonna like a 34 and a 36 are not that different. Like colleges don't look at them that differently.
Yeah, extracurriculars and things like that will differentiate.
Yes,
like a 34.
They will differentiate more.
Yeah, a 34 that was president of the debate club and volunteered for 20 hours a week is going to beat out a 36 that didn't do that stuff.
Exactly. It's diminishing returns. That's like the upper tier you want to get into. It's the upper, like that's the upper half of the 99th percentile. I'm pretty sure at 34. Like
yeah.
You know, 1 out of 200 people maybe gets a 34. I think so. It's like you're good. Like you're fine for the test at that point.
Okay.
Now, yeah. So like I'm helping people. Like I'm giving them like okay, like hey, let me help you with your consistency. Like hey, let me just give you some tips. Like we're working out problems and stuff. It's fine. Like that's good. And like that works. Like technically, yes, the more able is giving to the less able, but like it's not like with parity. It's not like, well, I got a 35, so let's see. That's, you know, let me think. Well, that's 14 points above the mean, so let me just do a little subtraction. And I got to help someone who's got a 9, like, or something like that. Or no, it would be a 7, actually. Like, oh, let's just help some, like, no. That shouldn't, like, that system's going to be, like, really, it'll just, even, like, helping, like, I don't want to help, like, average students. I don't, like, it's not going to be, like, I'm going to be able to give my most help to the kid with the 32, I think.
Yeah, well, at least in terms of getting them to achieve a high score, if the high score is your goal. Getting them to achieve their potential could be something different, but then the questions, then you run into other questions, as in, well, okay, if I'm helping the person that gets an 11, does that really, I mean, like, is that a good use of my time?
Right. Like, oh, yeah, like, oh, God, now he's scoring an average. Now they're average. Like, that's, like, you know, I might actually be hurting them by helping them get into college. Like that actually might be hurting.
Yeah, you might go and put them into a bunch of, or not you, but they might wind up taking on a whole bunch of student loan debt and not be able to pay them off because they can't think their way out of a wet paper bag.
Yeah, exactly. Like
and all of these things are where the idea of Marxism breaks down. It's like even parenting. If the parent just gives and gives and gives and gives and gives, and the nature of said giving is you know, just monetary in nature. Okay, I'll pay for your food, I'll pay for your clothes, I'll pay for your basically room and board, clothes, experiences in life, and so on. And I'm never going to make you learn anything. I'm never going to make you be competent, and I'm never going to make you find that area of competence and behave in that particular realm. I mean, whether that means fixing somebody's toilet, or whether that means, I don't know, fixing a particle accelerator at CERN, it's like, like there's way more to it. And ultimately, if it's your own progeny, if it's your own flesh and blood, your own genetic material, you are incentivized to provide for this sentient bologna loaf.
Yes.
You actually it's different because you're going to take the time that it takes to build somebody up, but you're not going to necessitate that they get any particular outcome, and you're going to be okay if one of your kids has a better outcome or a higher outcome according to some standard than the other, assuming that they're, you know, living up to their potential, doing what they want, and generally going to be living a healthy life. Now, if they can't subsist, then it's a question, okay, did the person actually do something wrong? Did I do something wrong as a parent? What's going on here? Or is it just a thing of, okay, well, maybe there wasn't necessarily the material, and we're going to have to help our kiddo pull his weight a little bit, and maybe you brother and you sister can go and help too. But that's a completely different scenario than just going and arbitrarily saying everyone gets the exact same result in life. Everyone gets to be equally miserable because we have to take from the people that have and give to the people that don't have, and then thereby reduce or completely eliminate the incentive to perform whatsoever. Like if I can't keep my grade points, and they're supposed to be given to the people that get the lowest points in the class, well then pretty soon everybody that goes and realizes that they're going to get their grades given and get average anyway is just going to decide, okay, well, average is going to be a 0.
Yeah. Right.
Similarly to how if you know that you're going to have everything that you produce in a field taken away from you, you're going to starve. The only way that works is if somebody puts a gun to your head and says work.
And one thing that like it's like at the very root, for example, do people who do worse off necessarily, like, let's just say necessarily, first of all, let's make some like baseline assumptions that I already don't agree with. Baseline, everyone needs to be in the same place. Like, I don't agree with that.
Okay,
like,
so everyone deserves the same outcome. Equality of outcome is a principle.
Don't agree with that right away.
But we'll posit that. Okay, everyone deserves the same outcome.
Everyone deserves the same outcome, and then on top of that, let's posit that people who are lower than average deserve more. They deserve the world owes them.
Okay, that's corollary.
Yeah, it's corollary. So coming out of this main assumption, we fall into the assumption that people who are doing worse just deserve more. They just do deserve more. By nature of being less than average, you deserve to be average. Like,
yes, that is a victimhood mentality. That is the definition. That's the textbook definition of victimhood mentality. Yeah, I am less than average, therefore I deserve more.
It's like, that doesn't make sense. Like, it just, to me, it doesn't make sense.
Well, that assumes that you earn. That assumes that you earn what you have.
Right. Yeah.
As opposed to having some central authority planning and saying, okay, everyone gets the same thing no matter what they do.
There's no, like, perfectly right. So, like, not everyone deserves what they have. Like, that doesn't happen perfectly. But
no, bad things happen to good people, and good luck happens to bad people. But by and large, in life, at least, if you don't wind up, getting born into abject poverty, there is enough social mobility.
Yeah, then you have a shot.
So basically, freedom is the biggest thing you can give to anybody. The freedom to do what you want to do with your life, and therefore to reap the consequences of your actions, as opposed to reaping the consequences of somebody else's actions and not being held to task, not being held accountable for what it is that you do.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, so that makes to me the most sense, is that, well, given enough freedom and enough mobility, etc., people are going to end up where they're going to end up. And like, it's kind of like if you have an experiment, adding more trials. Like, you add more trials to see, like, how things average out. Like, things will average out in the, given more freedom, people will, move to where they need to be. Mm-hmm. And that makes much more sense. Like, at least, like, they're like baseline, that does not, like, it doesn't make any sense to, like, if we're going to assume that people in general, we'll just say in general that people get kind of what they deserve, or at least they get a little, like, the essence, like, people get closer to what they deserve than what they don't deserve. So, like, people aren't getting opposite results. Like, wow, I put in a ton of work for the test. Like, in general, the people putting a ton of work for the test get a better grade than the people who didn't.
And even if they're like me in the biology class where I studied chapter 6 instead of chapter 5, or was it 7 instead of 6? Either way, I studied the wrong chapter for the test. Mm-hmm. And I got what was, at least for me, a bad grade. Mm-hmm. I mean, the next test, I completely destroyed it.
Yeah, you're like, wow, I know chapter 6 quite well. And it's biology too. It's not something you can quite intuit.
Yeah, and there was a multiple choice component as well, and I had actually paid attention during class, so was just like, why in the world is this reading material not matching up with what was in class? And I was just like in total oblivious nerd mode at that point. So it's like, well, whatever. I'll just read it.
Yeah, I'll just read it anyway. Exactly. And yeah, so, but in general, people like your outcome kind of reflects what happened. Like,
yeah, I still wound up getting an A in the class.
Yeah, you're right. And
I also got laughed at by all my classmates, but that's kind of par for the course.
Yeah, completely par for the course. And so, you know, with that assumption, essentially, you know, it doesn't make sense. With that assumption, if we keep that assumption and we apply it to the first assumption we made was that we're saying that people who do worse, people who do less deserve more, which makes no sense. Like, it's like, hey, you didn't put as much work in. Here's your A, like, or here's your C, like, here's your average score.
Yeah.
Like,
and even for me, who wound up getting a B- on the test, I mean, that didn't make or break it, because ultimately, you know, you wound up having, I believe for that course, it was either lowest test was dropped or it was just a weighted average of your best test or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that there was like over the course of a lifetime, unless you are really, really, really out of luck, in which case I say, you know, your family should take care of you. You know, family should be the go-to. Family and community should definitely be your first go-to point.
Right. Not right. The world, right?
Yeah. But still, over the course of life, you have many opportunities. Now, there are things that you can do to ruin your life. There are things that you can do. You can decide to get into really nasty consumer debt. Now, I'm not saying that like a medical expense that you need to get into debt to pay. But there are also ways around that. If you know how to negotiate, you can negotiate hospital bills down, and you can also, you know, find charities that are willing to help you pay for medical bills. So you don't have to even get into debt over that. But if you spend money that you don't have, buying stuff that you don't need, then you can wind up shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to life matters, right? So it's not just a question of each according to his ability. Because there's a matter of choice as well. It's like, am I going, like, what happens if okay, I have 2 children right now, and let's say 18 years rolls by, and, you know, they're young adults, and one of them decides that he's going to go and take out a $10,000 loan and buy lottery tickets. Well, does that mean that all of a sudden I'm going to make his sister go bail him out if that's what he does, or I'm going to make her brother bail her out if that's what she does? No. No, this is one of those things that you learn from the school of hard knocks. Ultimately, if you make a poor decision, then that means you have to make amends for it. You need to learn from whatever that decision happened to be, and hopefully, after 18 years of being my kid, you better know you don't take out a loan to buy lottery tickets unless you figured out how to game the system.
Right. And the thing is, like, which is just weird to me about this whole discussion is, like, these are the baseline assumptions. They're so wrong. Like, I can't, like, believe how wrong they are, actually. It just doesn't make any, like, it's incredible how, just how wrong, like, that seems. Like, it just is, like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's one of those things that it's not like, oh, well, it's confusing. No, it doesn't make sense. Like, I have no idea how that, like, would possibly work. How that, like, that model, like, anything modeled off that would like, be good. Like, it's just, like, the opposite of, like, it doesn't seem fair at all. Like,
well, if we go and we look at Dunbar's number, 148 people, so we round it up to 150. So say 100.5 people. 100.5. So 148 people.
Yeah.
In a group.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, it's like 100.5 people. Don't worry. Yeah, you can find the other half of Fred out in the smokehouse. We're smoking him for dinner because, well, he was way too capable and we needed to feed someone else. So we chopped off his legs. No. Okay, so 100 people and half of Fred. No. So you're in a village with 148 people. 3,000 years ago, or 7,000 years ago, whatever it may be. Just so you're in that particular scenario. Yes, there is an incentive for the whole to keep certain members alive. But the nature of that particular safety net is entirely organic. I mean, I suppose you could say that it's organic in the current world too, in that people wind up voting for politicians that may or may not do exactly what the people are asking for. But ultimately, you wind up having a community that's small enough for people to take responsibility for others, so that if Fred is sick, then we have Jane taking care of Fred while all the other guys go out hunting. And it's okay, because Fred's going to, when he gets better, on account of the fact that he is part of the community, be able to go out and go hunting. Sue was picking berries and stepped on a thorn and got her foot infected. Well, she has a poultice on her foot, and is having a really nasty fever. But she's going to rest, and then if she gets better, if she doesn't die of the infection, well, then she'll be out picking berries in a week or two. So these things do actually work in theory on a small scale, on account of the fact that you have to take care of your own, and especially even more so in a family environment where everyone loves and cares for each other, not only on account of their physical proximity and Dunbar's number, but on account of the emotional proximity of being part of a family. So certain things can certainly take place, but going and mandating that this is how things actually are supposed to go, going and mandating, that is where I take issue. Because I'm perfectly alright if somebody comes to me and asks for help. I'm perfectly okay with giving them. I'm not going to necessarily say, okay, you need to learn from the School of Hard Knocks, no help from me.
It's like I don't want my doctor. It's like you go to your doctor for like cancer treatment, and you're like, you gotta learn from the School of Hard Knocks. Like, no, right? No, but
even your neighbor asks you for a loan of $50, and you know that your neighbor is a trustworthy person. It's just,
then I'll do it. Yeah,
and I'm okay with that. Yeah, I mean, let's just say that I haven't given my neighbor a loan of $50.
But saying you have to at all times.
But having Big Daddy Government put a gun to my head and say, give $50 to your neighbor or else,
I would be really mad. Yeah, that's way worse.
Because it's out of my own choice, my freedom. If out of my freedom I choose to help people, like that means I can also ensure that the nature of my help is actually going to be helpful rather than a hindrance.
Like in the phrase "doing things out of like the kindness of your heart," like it's not doing things out of the strong arm of the government.
No, I mean, someone that has been robbed, and let's say somebody carries around cash and doesn't really, is living a minimum wage lifestyle or something. If that person gets robbed and has the majority of his month's savings, yeah, I will help him get through the month. Right. I'm not going to, but I also might help him put in certain protections into place. I might help him get a bank account. I might help him get a bank card with fraud protection. I might go and do these other things that I'm incentivized to do, so I don't wind up having to fork out money out of my pocket every time some nincompoop goes and holds my friend up.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, like, is there anything else in particular to discuss around this idea? Like, it just seems so wrong. I don't know.
Well, it's very wrong. But the fact of the matter is, a great proportion of Westerners believe in this. A great proportion of Westerners are enamored with the idea and basically go and say, well, the only problem is implementation, because we understand what Marx actually means and we think that it's good. And
yeah, you hear that all the time. It's a perfect system.
Yeah, it's a perfect system. It just hasn't been implemented right.
I wonder why it hasn't been implemented right.
Well, it's because ultimately lead is currency. That is the implementation. Lead is currency. You either need to drug everybody and get them completely docile and compliant, or you shoot them. That's ultimately the only way you can make socialism work.
And here's the thing.
And the theory is that communism happens after people have gotten used to socialism for long enough for that to be the normal modus operandi, and then you just the government.
It's like if something has been tried once and it fails, then yeah, it might be implementation, especially because if it's once, it's probably the first time. It's
but
like,
if
okay,
every single time that
every
has ever
single
happened,
time, like, is everyone just screwing up every time? You think it might be like a problem with the system? This is why. Here's one. This is a nice like good. This is some good advice from this. I think this is some good advice that I've thought of. Like when you know those girls or guys, anyone who's like women who are like, all men are evil. God, all men are the same. They're all awful. They suck. But like there's people who really feel strongly, right? It's like that person has a problem almost every time. Any guy who's like, all women, oh, they're all, you know, all they are gold diggers and, you know, all this stuff. Like that guy has a problem. Like the girl has a problem. These people have problems. Like it's not the other gender, so it's not everyone else's fault. Like
no, this is a problem with people themselves knowing what kinds of limits to set.
And
with whom do I interact and under what terms?
Yeah,
and therein also freedom is an important thing, because if you wind up having a bunch of people making free choices, they will, by definition, do what they think is best for themselves based on whatever their priorities happen to be.
Right. And
now, I don't see there being... I hope the government's not listening in on this. Guys, if you're listening, don't take this as an idea. Don't take this as a crazy idea for you to try to implement. But like, don't have this thing whereby there's this attractiveness rating, and then you make like the ugly people like don't go and, if I were single, don't go and make me date an ugly person just so she has a date.
Yeah.
Don't make me do that. It's like, if I want to date somebody, I'll date somebody. But don't go and just be like, yeah, I'm ugly, I smoke, I'm missing some of my teeth, I do meth, I've ruined my life, and, you know, I'm 19 years old, and my life expectancy is another 3 years. No, I'm not dating you. That's that kind of a thing is just no. I'm not going to do that. But then the analogous situation to socialism is, yeah, I have to, because you have just as much of a right to a relationship, a happy relationship. But the fact of the matter is, you force that relationship on everybody, and everyone's going to be miserable because they didn't have a choice in who they spent their time with. Across domains, you're going to wind up having the same thing, assuming that you put such artificial, stupid requirements on the system.
Yeah, and just, I don't know, anytime like you're like having to force people to do things, it's like becomes just really a mess as well, I think. Like, it's much more convenient to have people do things out of their free will and then just direct that free will in such a way that, like, well, not even really directed, but, you know, because the thing is, the cool thing about people is we do direct it, like, we're very self-directed, and, like, we respond that, like, you know.
Yeah.
If a problem arises, there's an incentive to fix it. Like, the system we have, like, that sort of system, the way economics works, it's like... It works so well, like, right? It seems like, and it's really, it's, you know, it's almost like, wow, this is sort of how we were like meant to do. It's almost like this is how we did it. Like when, like if you probably looked at, you know, cavemen and people like that, it's probably what they're, you know, it's like, ooh, let's trade for, like, this is like an intuitive system that like makes sense to people and works really well with people.
Yeah, you have Bob go out and fish and then trade half of his fish for a boat, and then everyone winds up, oh boy, now I don't have to fish from the shore anymore, and you know, then you have Jeong go make a net, and wow, all of a sudden, everyone's living standard goes up because you wind up having this thing, you know, the living of standard exponentially increases. You wind up having all these different things called innovations taking place due to efficient use of capital. And the efficient use of capital, the biggest capital that gets efficiently used is up here.
Yes.
And in here, hands, brains, You know, there's that. And that is
right.
Therein lies the secret to getting people's standards of living up. And yeah, you might wind up having the people that produce more getting more out of the system.
Right.
But ultimately, you wind up the people that are having a problem with it nowadays in the West are not actually abjectively poor. They're not
Right.
starving. Most of the people in the West, at least, are not starving.
Middle class people.
And you're having hundreds of thousands of people every day being lifted out of abject poverty due to capitalism. The difference is, some people don't like being on rung number 3 of a 1,000-rung ladder. But if the top of the ladder is above rung 7 of a 10-rung ladder, one is an objectively better situation to be than the other, but another, the status monkey messes with people. The status monkey makes me think, oh, I don't have as much as the Joneses across the street. I know. I don't like the fact that he has a Porsche, so I'm going to go, while he's asleep, and put nails on his driveway so that no matter which way he pulls out, his tires pop. I'm going to take a sledgehammer to his Porsche because he can't have a better standard of living than I. As opposed to, well, okay, I'm just going.
Yeah. That's what a great neighbor that would be.
Yeah, it's like, what is the incentive?
You can't have nice things. It's like, I'm just I don't know. We live next to each other, guy. Like, I don't know you that well. It's like, I'm gonna destroy your Porsche. It's like, like, it's so ridiculous.
It's like, no.
It's like, but we haven't even met.
Yeah,
we just moved in.
Yeah, but that really does happen to be, that's a mindset of, lower status. So one of the biggest things that people can cultivate in societies of abundance is gratitude.
Yeah.
Gratitude. I mean, you don't need to be satisfied necessarily with your situation. You can always be aiming for something more. But the fact of the matter is, if you're not thankful for what you do have, then it's going to lead you with a very embittered attitude toward everyone else.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be envious. Envy is going to be the predominant thought rather than production. Like, envy versus abundance and production. Like, those are two completely different ways of looking at the world.
Yeah.
And then you wind up having, the ancients going and figuring this out, saying, thou shalt not covet. Well, what's that? Don't freaking envy other people. Don't go wasting all of your energy thinking, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. Well, just go out and get it then, dude.
Right.
Don't scheme about how to don't scheme about how to destroy Bob's Porsche. Scheme about how to go and get one yourself, and then go out and do it if that's what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's so many ways of doing it. I mean, heck, you can go and collect garbage and get a Porsche. I believe there was a guy who collected tin cans and bought either a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. So I mean.
It's like, okay.
It's like,
obviously it's possible.
It's like it's just a question of prioritization. And if you have a goal-oriented mindset, whatever your goal happens to be, you aim for it. You are mindful about it. You pursue it. Yeah, of course you can ultimately be successful. And the fact of the matter is, if you decide that you're going to drag other people along with you on your road to success, how can I help you? If you can make my situation in life better, I will do my best to make your situation in life better. And then you come up with all these win-win deals, and constantly everybody winds up getting lifted up on the tide of proper expenditure of capital. Not the least of which is human ingenuity.
Intellectual capital.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else to say about this topic? Like, do we have any? I mean, I'm sure there is, but like, is there any other? Like, I just, it still baffles me that it just exists as a question. I don't know. Like, it's just so surprising that many people think that way.
Daniel G00 asks, do you think consistency or outcome is more important in morals?
Well, that really depends.
It's like, well,
for
is
example,
it consistently outcome dependent? Are you consistently just doing what you perceive as right? I mean,
well, here, I'll do a little mathematical representation just so this. So let's say there is a best and there's a worst in this scenario, and then there's a spectrum between them. So 100 being the best. So for example, yeah. So if, and it really depends. There's like, you could like literally make an equation for this, but I'm not going to. So for example, let's say there's a guy who has 100 moral, like his morals are perfect. He's got 100. Like we'll make it easy. Numbers, quantities are easy to comprehend. Okay, so this guy, but he's very inconsistent. Like sometimes he's 100, sometimes he's 0. Like it's wildly inconsistent.
It's like on Tuesday he goes out and murders his neighbor, but then the rest of the week he works in the soup kitchen and
right,
has a business that nets $1 billion a year. Doing
so let's say let's make it even. Like, so let's say this guy is 100, and let's say he's inconsistent, but he doesn't like waver to even all the way to murder. Let's say like sometimes he's just like, yeah, I could have helped that person. He doesn't. So let's say that's like 50. That's like average. So sometimes he's 100, sometimes he's 50. He's either one or the other. He's not consistent.
No, this also necessitates perfect knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to know what the best thing to do in any.
It does necessitate perfect knowledge, but that's like when we're talking about morals. Well, we theoretically there is. Let's say there's perfect moral. Let's just say exists out there.
Let's say everybody knows everybody else's situation in life.
Let's say, so like let's assume there is a best outcome, which I think is like a not too much of a I don't think that's a crazy assumption to make, but let's not assume we know how to get there.
Okay.
We obviously don't know how to get to the best outcome, and we don't know which one is the best outcome. We can assume it exists, but we don't know how. What we're doing in this example is assuming we know the best, just to see how it plays out, so we can kind of see what happens. So,
good.
And then there's his neighbor who his moral is not as high. Like let's say he gets 90, but he consistently hits it every time. And then let's say there's events, let's call them events, where morals are exercised. Let's say like, okay, like, oh, you know, some lady drops her purse and she walks off, like she doesn't notice. You know, that'd be
or $100 falls out of her purse or something.
Right. Like me sitting here on my, well, let's just say I'm not on stream. Me sitting here just on my chair. I'm not doing much moral activity. Like there's not much amoral or like moral.
Or one could say that it's immoral because you could be out helping other people, right?
Right.
People could say that.
Yeah, people could say that.
But then you could also be recharging yourself and putting on your own oxygen mask before helping others put on theirs. You know that.
Right.
It's complicated.
So let's say I'm not, like, there's very low moral potential. Like I can't do much like moral work sitting here doing nothing. If I sat here for a long time doing nothing, then we could say I'm doing negative moral work because I'm not helping anyone in the end.
Yeah, but then also, if we're looking at things from a purely capitalist perspective, then you should starve.
Yes. But let's say, but I'm going in tangents to like make this situation. But
it's fine, and I think that it's necessary to do that because this situation does need to be exploded open. And after you're done, I have something to add as well. But to go take your time, like,
so basically,
we got all the time in the world.
So we have Joe and Bob, we'll call them. Joe is the one who either 100 or 50. It's either 100 or 50. Like, that's where his morals swing between. Somewhere in that range.
And it's a bimodal distribution. It's like half and half, 150.
We'll say bimodal.
So average is out to be 75, but it's either 100 or 50.
That's the point. And that is in the end, what Matt just said is the point, is that it averages out to be 75. So when you're consistently, if you're not like, if you're not consistent, like say you're really moral, but like, are you very, very good values, but you're not, like maybe 100 stands for having the best values, and you're not actually like following through all the time. If you're not consistent, then your actual moral like quotient or whatever, we'll say that your MQ. Oh God, please don't tell Cora about that.
Oh boy, we got PQ for penile length quotient. We got
my
MQ.
My MQ is only 100. Is that? Can I be a humanitarian?
Can I be Gandhi?
Can I be Gandhi? No. So, but yeah. So obviously it nets lower. But like if someone has not, like say someone consistently like every Jew I see I kill. I hate that. Like I hate Jewish people. Like I'm very consistent about my values. It's not better. It's obviously not better. So it really like the consistency matters a lot. Like for like what you're doing with that consistency, and also and that can like say like one day I help at the soup kitchen, like really help. Like a lot of people, like I'm just doing everything, and then the rest of the year I'm just like on my ass laying around.
Well, you funded the soup kitchen for a week. You showed up for a day, and you were the only one working, doing anything.
Right. Exactly. So you're just really only help. And then there's that one guy who volunteers once a week. He just volunteers once a week. He comes in. He helps with everyone else. He's not doing the majority of the work, but he's doing it consistently. Maybe for that 1 week you were better, but then like if we take years time and then multiple years later you've still only done that 1 year time and he's still coming in once a week, he's gonna have done more work in total than you.
And this happens if we're trying to and this happens if we're trying to turn it into a quantitative thing. I don't even know if it's possible.
I don't think it is possible.
But for the sake of discussion, it was kind of necessary to do it for that particular illustration.
Right, exactly.
But the question I think introduces also a false dichotomy. Like consistency or outcome. Okay, consistency or outcome. It's spectrum, well, and ultimately, if we go and we look at Aristotle, he basically said that the whole point, like virtue in and of itself, is a good thing. And being virtuous ultimately leads to being happy. Now, being happy, is kind of this goal in life. That people set out to be happy. But Aristotle argues that in order to be happy, you need to be virtuous. So, if you are happy, then that means you must have done something virtuous along the way, or at least stumbled upon virtue. And of course, you might have these very, very transient things that are just, luck, but then you ultimately wind up being a miserable person because you're a complete and total worthless human being for a great portion of your life. But these things are very, very difficult to quantify. You can't be completely utilitarian either, because then because in a utilitarian thing, there's the train problem. There's the you have 5 people sitting on a train track. Train's going there, and then there's one person on a siding. Everyone's stuck. You flip the switch, and you are responsible for either either you flip the switch and the one person dies, or you don't flip the switch and the 5 die.
Yeah, and there's
but then what happens when the question is there's 5 people, a nurse, a doctor, a teacher, a serial killer, and a rapist.
Yeah.
Or 5 random people that you don't know. And it's heading toward the nurse, the doctor, the serial killer, the teacher, and the rapist.
Right.
Do you switch to the 5 random people? I don't know, do you?
Yeah, and there's also the positive right to life versus negative right to life, or something like this. I forget what it's called. It was in my philosophy class. I don't remember the title or whatever, but I remember the idea was like, it was essentially like, so for example, let's say it's the classic condition where it's 5 people on the track and then one person, and the one person is going to get run over, the 5 people are going to get run over, or you could pull the switch and one person gets run over. Technically, without your intervention, those 5 people die. With your intervention, one person dies. So it's like, are you taking away? That guy wasn't going to die. You, with your power, took away his.
You took away his right to life.
you took away his right to life.
But then you also guaranteed the other people's.
Right, and you can also argue that, like, you have the choice, like, you have the, like, by not doing anything, you took away those people's right to life, those 5 people, because you could have prevented it. Like, there's so much, like, weird minutia and, like, conceptual, like, vagueness, and like, really, there's no sense of, like, hierarchy. Like, there's not some nice, clear, like, what should happen. It's just this kind of mess. And it's really, like, hard. It's just really hard to, like, even deal with that stuff. So sometimes you have to, like, quantify it just to be simple. And, like, that sort of thought experiment, like, you can approach it from multiple different philosophical angles, and there's not necessarily a right. Like, that's a situation where it's, like, it really, like, it's hard. It's just really hard. I guess maybe there is a right answer. I'm just going to assume there is a right answer, just in general. But... like, I don't know, and it's really difficult. So,
well, I could talk about the philosophical implications of a theological position I hold.
Okay.
So, the theological position I hold is basically there's the 10 Commandments, obey them, and by the way, nobody can. That's the theological position.
There you go.
Especially if you understand something like killing somebody is equivalent to wishing that they were dead. Oops. I've killed a lot of people then morally. Committing adultery is like wishing you were sleeping with somebody. Well, then I've committed adultery with a whole lot of people too.
Right.
So there are these really, really high moral standards. Like, and no matter what scale you pick, you're gonna wind up having, unless you're really an underachiever, moral standards that cannot be achieved all the time. I mean, right. heck, even if you are an underachiever, you'll probably somehow accidentally, I mean, like, oops, I overslept. I didn't.
Oh boy.
Oops. But whatever the standard is, the natural thing to do, and this probably has to do a lot with the Okay, well, anyhow, I'll finish my point about the theological position. The theological position is you can't do it. But there's this thing where basically God forgives you, and ultimately, therefore, you have the ability to forgive yourself of what you've done wrong, and you forgive other people for when they've wronged you. And so a lot of it has to do with the fact that we acknowledge straight up from the very beginning that we're not perfect, and that we're not going to pretend like we are, but still we're going to say that this ideal of how we should treat each other, especially as exemplified in the golden rule of treating one another as you would have them treat you. I mean, I would much rather prefer that it be stated, treat others as they would have you treat them, but, at that point we're dealing with semantics. The philosophical implication is, though, that ultimately you can wind up dealing with guilt. And guilt will serve to help you make better choices in the long run, but at the same time, you don't need to constantly be beating yourself up over the past to the point where it renders you incapable of acting more morally in the present. So forgiveness, both of yourself and of other people, winds up helping being a future-oriented kind of a thinking, a present and future-oriented kind of a thinking, rather than getting so bogged up in the past that you are not capable anymore of doing what you need to do in the future because you're holding on to all that past guilt.
Right, and it holds a nice balance, in my opinion. Like, here is the best things, or here are really good things that are not really good, really bad things that you shouldn't do. But by not doing these things, you're probably going to be in a good place because, like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But we're not going to, we're not going to screw you over for just, screwing up a little bit. Like, still do these things and try to do them.
Yeah,
but we know it's not going to be perfect.
And like, civil law says, if you do go kill somebody else, well, we'll lock you up for the rest of your life. Or, you do rape someone else and we'll, chop off your manhood, or whatever the law might state. Actually, I think that would be a great punishment for convicted rapists. But I also think the burden of proof should be.
I am not. See, okay, so I was in my FIG class, and they were like, we were talking about morals and ethics and stuff like that, and we were talking about the death penalty. And I was like, the death penalty is sort of like, it's an interesting one because like a lot of times people get the death penalty and then they're like found to be like innocent, and it's like, oh god, that's terrible. Like a significant percentage of people who were killed by the death penalty were innocent, and that's like awful. But aside from that, they were like, there's problems with the injections. Like, it's expensive and like it messes up all the time. And I was like, well, why not just a guillotine? Like, why don't we use a guillotine? And everyone was like, well, people were kind of not appalled. They weren't appalled, but it's the same, like, that same, like, kind of feeling. Like, they're like, yeah, the guillotine. And where was I going? I was going somewhere with this, I promise. There, I didn't just bring this up. Let me think.
Mm-hmm. Well, after you're done talking about that, we can bring up constant categorical imperative, as Daniel G00 was bringing.
Well, okay, so my point is not necessarily super like salient. It's not great, but like this is like I guess interesting to me. So I'll just bring this up. Mm-hmm. One thing, and this is like kind of an aside, I suppose, is like people. Like for example, like if we're talking about like, you kill someone or you do something really bad and you get the death penalty or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like people like care about, like, it's just interesting to me that they care enough about that they're going to like, and this might be so far off, but it's just weird to me that people essentially, like, the means of the death, like, people are, oh, we'll do lethal injection because that's humane or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
I'd rather have the guillotine.
Right. What brought this up was when you said, why don't we just, chop rapists, why don't we just, make it so they don't have kids? Like, that sort of thing, like, it doesn't, like, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Like, I'm fine with that. And I guess there is fuzzy areas. There are fuzzy areas, where
there always will be.
Like, it's like, and it's, oh gosh, because there is never perfect information. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's such a huge. Oh god, I'm so glad I'm not going into law. But
there's a reason I like punitive punishment, and it has to do with it being a deterrent. But I think that there should be a caveat. I think that falsely accusing anyone of any crime, with mens rea. Like, I'm not talking making a mistake. I'm talking false accusation. Like a woman falsely accusing a man of rape. Someone falsely accusing somebody of murder in order to frame him or something. That whatever the punishment is for the crime, the false accuser should face it upon being convicted of false accusation.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's good.
I mean, so like, let's just go and blast this whole situation up. Let's just say that emasculation.
I like that. I really like that solution, actually. I think that fixes a lot. I mean, it's not perfect because there is, like, I don't think there is a perfect solution, but I think it's a really great one, actually. To that problem.
I mean, like let's pick a really graphic one. Let's just hypothetically say the punishment for rape is emasculation. Like, no numbing it, just whip it out there and just.
Yeah.
Okay, just all of it gone. And then, prevent it from getting infected, kind of a thing. Like, don't have it ruin, don't have it kill you, but just
right. Of course.
Just bye family jewels, bye wiener. Okay? So then the thing for false rape accusation, it would be you're tied down to an operating table and have a hysterectomy done with no anesthesia. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
Fair is fair. Like that would be a fair equivalent thing. Now, certainly someone might say that's cruel and unusual punishment. I'd be like, cruel and unusual. Well, if everyone did it, then it wouldn't be unusual, would it?
Wouldn't be, and it might not even be cruel at that point, right? It might be expected.
Yeah, well, but either way, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm not necessarily positing this is a good idea, but I'm just saying that it could conceivably work. And, like, if you know that you're going to get the death penalty for accusing somebody else wrongly of murder, well,
You're probably not going to do that.
You're not going to go and accuse. I was like, am I willing to take that risk?
Right.
And it's like, and if you have to go into court yourself, it's not like they're going to lose track of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I really like that. The thing where you're like, we're basically like, you get the equivalent punishment, because that would is one of the major problems with that, is like, oh gosh, we ended up screwing up, this person lied, and this happened here, it's so, like, it sucks, like, it would suck.
Yeah.
And it does. I mean, imagine being the judge who gave someone the death penalty, and then they were like, and they were not guilty. Like, that's awful. That's murder. Like, that's straight up murder at that point.
Well, I mean, not on the part of the judge. Assuming that he did it on appropriate information, it is murder on the part of the people that gave the bad information.
Right.
Willingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just saying it's murder in general. I don't know from who. It's like maybe not one singular person murder, but like,
everyone played a part. It's unjustly taking the life of somebody else.
Yeah. It's awful. Like, that's terrible.
I mean, and the fact of the matter is, let's say that I were in that particular position and I knew I was innocent. I might, I don't know what I would say, but I wouldn't necessarily go past the point of saying I wouldn't just maybe want it to be all done and over with.
Mm-hmm.
If it meant, like, let's say I was accused of a really, really horrendous crime, and that meant, getting bent over in my cell every day and getting raped by some guy with AIDS. I might prefer death at that point.
Yes, I would. From that,
I mean, yeah. When given a choice of death or that, I would actually value. I might just choose to die if I had the choice. I don't think I would kill myself, but I think I think I would rather be sentenced to death than be sentenced to be raped by Bubba every day.
Yeah. And also, one interesting thing is the means. Like, people, like, and this is what I was saying before, was like, people like, oh, lethal injection, like, humane, like, painless, like, it's dead, like, they're dying, like, who cares? Like I was like, a guillotine would be great. It'd be cheap as hell. You wouldn't need all these professionals, those special holding cells. Like, no, a guillotine would be great. And people are like, well, it's gory, it'd be messy. I was like, well, my idea was... Nice
deterrent.
My idea was just, it's gory? Like, because they're like, well, blood will get everywhere. I was like, well, my idea was to superheat the guillotine, so it, like, cauterizes it.
So it cauterizes it on the way out, and it just, yeah.
And then it's just this nice...
A red-hot blade. Yeah. But then the other thing is, you'd also have to make sure that the edge was honed properly. Right. So it just has to be hot enough to cauterize, but then... Mm-hmm. Oh boy! Now we're talking about the intricate mechanisms of a guillotine.
That was my idea. That was my idea.
That's not a bad idea.
What the hell is this kid?
I think it's an effective idea. Daniel G00 is bringing up an interesting point. Dis or death? Oh boy! He said best way to be executed is high-rise building. Could be big, huge. The splat. Or be underneath a high-rise building and have a big rock be thrown off the high-rise building. That's another way. But Daniel G00 says, what if the rapist was somehow proved to never rape again? Would this not be reduced to a form of revenge? Well, I would say, I take a different view toward punitive, toward the legal system having a punitive aspect. And I think that it serves, or at least it behooves the system to have punitive measures for really bad crimes publicly available. Like just publicly shown. Like, even if it's just putting a thief in a stocks and throwing rotten tomatoes at his head for an hour or two on Monday afternoon.
That'd be so fun.
Or just having somebody wear a chicken outfit and stand outside a place saying, "Don't steal from this place. I did, and look where it got me." I think that an awful lot of the punitive aspect of punishment is to make it serve as a deterrent for other people. It's not. It's not about. I don't think that it's so much about revenge as it is about causing there to be a certain set of societal expectations regarding behavior. And if you understand action leads to a certain consequence, then then I'm okay with punitive punishment. But that's why also the exact same punishment needs to exist for those that would falsely accuse someone else. Otherwise, you wind up having witch hunts.
Yes.
You wind up having witch hunts. You wind up having all these different. You need to build in protections, and of course, innocent until proven guilty, always. Like none of this presumption of guilt going into things, and definitely none of this in a case of. And I know this isn't a crime, but in the case of a divorce, presumption that the man is in the wrong. Like you don't hold. Like you hold all parties involved as presumed to be innocent until proven guilty. Beyond a reasonable doubt. Yes. Not preponderance of the evidence, beyond a reasonable doubt. There are certain things that the legal system at least nominally gets right, and that I think is one of them.
Yeah.
And how that would happen in an anarchist system, I'm not entirely certain. There are all sorts of different ways that you could conceivably say that, and an awful lot of the punishment might not be punitive. Or at least not so visible. But then you could also have the understanding of, well, okay, let's say that you were required to have insurance to go places, and nobody will insure you. Well, then essentially you're turned into a social outcast, and therefore that would be de facto exile. So I mean, exile is punitive, and if people don't want to be exiled, well, then they wouldn't do that. Of course, if people do want to be exiled, well, then nobody else wants to have them around anyway. So.
Yes. Oh man.
Yeah, like in pirate times when they hang the pirates at the entrance to the city. Exactly. Hacked to death by Colombian cartel.
That wouldn't be very fun.
I think that you could come up with it all. Like
come up with worse than that.
Laser cauterization could make a whole lot of things possible.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, little bit by little bit.
Well, I mean, and there's lots of different torture methods that are pretty terrible.
Yeah.
If you look at, like, read your history books, whatever. There's, like, quite a few weird, like, terrible things that people did. They came up with.
Here's, like,
they had some some very creative, smart people who are really morbid as well. Who came up with these, like contraptions.
The pear, the splat, thumb screws. I mean... The rack. I mean,
yeah, right, exactly. And
they all don't even need all that much. Like the Japanese during World War II really had it down. Bamboo underneath the fingernails and toenails. I mean, just that alone. Waterboarding.
Yep.
Now I know it's probably not the same, but I actually waterboarded myself. Just to see what it'd be like. And like there are different variations on it. And there are certain variations that are way worse. Like there's the variation where you like put a bag over your face with a hole over your mouth. That is way worse than just a towel. Okay, so and the basic idea of waterboarding is essentially that you go and you fill your sinus cavities with water so that you feel like you're going to drown yourself. So I essentially waterboarded myself with a bucket of garden hose and some towels, trash bags, and come to think of it, that probably wasn't exactly the wisest idea. But I did it. But I did it in order to familiarize myself a bit with the techniques of waterboarding when that was all in the news, talking about the waterboarding of prisoners in Guantanamo Bay and so on. And it's like, well, yeah, that could conceivably be bad, but like if you know that the goal is not to kill you, then you I don't know, but it still does. It gives you that shock, and you're like, okay, up, done. No.
Yeah.
Like I would definitely say that qualifies as torture.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's not a fun thing, I guess. It's like, oh, that reminds me. It's like this sentence, like I went I got waterboarded at, or it's like, let's go waterboarding at Guantanamo Bay. Like that sounds like a vacation.
No.
Like, let's go waterboarding.
Let's go waterboarding. It's just like surfing.
Yes, it's like surfing. It's like surfing, but like the tide is really rough, and like you got knocked off the board, and you're in the middle of the ocean, and you can't swim. Like there you go. It's just like surfing. But yeah. Let's see. Let me look at the comments.
Yeah. This is actually turned into being a very interesting. This stream has taken a very interesting turn of events.
Yes.
Going from each according to his ability to each according to his needs, showing how that kind of falls apart as society gets bigger. How you can't expect that on a big level to actually work, although in a family or in a very small community it could conceivably work, as long as there's the ability to, eject people that don't pull their weight, and could otherwise, things of that nature. And then talking about punishment and crime and what else did we talk about in the intervening time? It was morals.
Yeah.
And how difficult it is to go and just say, okay, consistency or results.
Yes.
Because ultimately, you can't guarantee 100% of cause and effect, but there still is a link. Like I can't guarantee that every time that I would, bring a product to market that people will buy it. But, if I constantly bring good products to market, there's a better chance that people will buy it than if I constantly bring bad products to market, ceteris paribus. And so, these you get what's coming to you things ultimately work considerably better over longer periods of time. And assuming that your character remains consistent. Now, if you constantly develop yourself into a better person every single iteration that something happens to you, well then you can constantly have a higher expected outcome, if we're going to continue using mathematical metaphors here. But ultimately, we need to understand that in life there are no guarantees, aside from pretty much mortality. And even then, it's going to be a question of, okay, so how will we define mortality if we can wind up cutting our brain out, putting it into a jar, and attaching electrodes, or having a new suit or something? I mean, like, what will happen then? But insofar as we're aware, mortality is kind of the only guarantee that we have.
Right.
Which ultimately leads many people into nihilism.
Yeah.
Being stuffed into a small box and buried alive.
That would suck.
Yeah, that would suck. The difficulty would be, of course, the asphyxiation.
I'm assuming you haven't tried that one in your yard.
No, I haven't, actually. Although I have put myself in a small box for a very long period of time just to see how that would be. And it was mostly, it was just very, very warm and stuffy. I actually did that because I was having trouble with claustrophobia. So I figured that, I hate stinging insects. Go hang out, read next to a beehive, right? You hate small places, you go put yourself in a box. You hate high places, you go and climb a big rock or go to someplace high. Whatever it is. And ultimately that teaches you very much about emotional state control. So if you go and you go and embrace discomfort, you go and embrace all these different things, it makes you more capable of dealing with problems and discomforts and things on the fly as they come.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So even if you do have an emotional reaction to something, you will have learned the meta skill of dealing with emotional reactions.
Exactly. Yeah, that's quite good. So you got over your little bit of claustrophobia then from that?
Yeah.
Nice.
To think that people claim giving birth is the most painful thing a person can experience, kidney stones is apparently worse. Gallstones can be worse, depending. I'm assuming, and I don't know, I don't have all the facts, because an awful lot of it is up here. An awful lot of pain is in the mind. And, you wind up having, from each according to his ability, morals and ethics, etc. That's what our topic is evolving over time.
Cluster headaches do suck, apparently.
Yeah, and but I ran out of characters, so I had to go and shorten it. Anyhow, going to cluster headaches, that would be horrible. That would be horrible. Cluster headaches are terrible. But ultimately, I don't know, because the attitude that you have, the way you deal with pain. Like, there are people that were able to have, back in the day, surgeries without any kind of anesthesia whatsoever. Like, sometimes you get people drunk before you cut them open, other times you just wouldn't need to. And the mindset that you approached the thing with really determined how much pain you had. And so I knew people that expected to be hurt. And in expecting to be hurt while playing sports or something, a little touch would... And at first I would think they would be acting, but no, they weren't acting. They actually were feeling the pain. A little touch would just go and trigger it, because they were expecting to feel pain at a particular point. Whereas there were other people that are just like, oh, we're just going to go and we're just going to do something. You have huge gashes and bruises and blood in it. They just didn't care. You could fall and hit your head on a rock and just have blood streaming down your face. You actually have muscle showing. All of that. And I don't care. And
yeah, it's like, okay.
And I've noticed that in myself as well. Like, if I'm really focused on what's going on around me, I can hurt myself and not even realize it until later.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like, you think about your worst accident and then think about the worst pain you've experienced, and I feel like they won't be the same thing.
Almost invariably not. And there are a lot of people that survive car wrecks, are completely pumped full of adrenaline.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I didn't feel crap. I broke my arm, but I didn't feel anything. Yeah, I mean, I broke both my wrists when I was young. I didn't feel that much pain.
Oh yeah,
I didn't cry really or anything. It's like, wow.
Fortunately, I haven't broken any bones. My little brother broke his finger while we were playing football, and I reset his finger, made a splint and everything, put it all back together. And then after I did that, we went and continued playing football. Went back home. My mom just completely flipped out, insisted that we go to the doctors. I told her we didn't need to. I mean, obviously, mom's gonna be worried, right? You got your son.
Yes, of course.
But then went to the doctor. I don't even know what went wrong, but apparently I had set it perfectly, and then some nincompoop wound up moving it, and then he had to have surgery weeks later due to the fact that they wound up taking off the splint that I had put and doing all sorts of weird things, and so he wound up having to it wound up turning my glue, popsicle sticks, and duct tape fix. Total cost like what, 30 cents maybe.
Yeah. Not much.
Turned into a multiple $1,000 ordeal. All because someone got nervous about the whole, oh, you can't possibly fix it. And then after that, it was interesting how much more my mom trusted me after that. She's like, oh, well, I guess you do know what you're talking about. I mean,
maybe.
I mean, at this point, I had studied anatomy and physiology and things like that, and I had studied enough of medicine to know how to do these things. So it was just just a part of life. You set bones. And if you know how to set bones, then, I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. There are certain things you can do, and we, because we were playing, we were having fun. You know, it was a question of, okay, we're going to throw a pass, and then I think it was somehow this weird thing of getting tackled in a weird direction and tripping over a well. You know, like, while running across the neighbor's lawn. Oops.
And it's like, oh, oops.
Yeah, and then he just had like his finger broken. Like, it wasn't dislocated; it was just broken, coming off at an angle like this.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Like, people, I got a little queasy seeing that, but then it's like, okay, let's check and make sure. Palpated a bit, and you know, frame of mind. You're having emotion, having a certain emotional state predisposes you to deal with things in a particular way, and that also transfers to having a can-do attitude versus a can't-do attitude. If you have a can-do attitude, you're going to have your mind open to all the potential possibilities of making things work. Whereas if you have a can't-do attitude, the first sign of anything that could conceivably throw off your plans will throw off your plans, because you're going to be prepared for having your plans being thrown off.
Right.
Like, there are attitudes conducive for winning and attitudes conducive for losing. Most of the game is up here.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so if you really want to do yourself a favor, learn to control the game up here before going anywhere else or doing anything else or worrying about anybody else. Just get a hold of your own psyche.
Yeah, literally.
And then you won't have to worry about from each according to his ability, because to each according to his need, and you're not going to have to worry about being needy, because ultimately you're just going to go out and see a situation and be like, okay, I'm going to solve this, I'm going to get what I want, and I'm not going to stop until I do get what I want. And I'm going to do everything that depends on me in order to get what it is that I want. And when you have that attitude, you will learn whatever you need to learn. You will make whatever connections you need to make. You will get what you want if you want it badly enough. And by wanting it, I mean actually having the will to pursue it.
Right.
And if you don't have the will to pursue something, then one of the things you can do is you can will to get the will to pursue something. And that means that you go and you knock out your bad habits and replace them with good ones. Like, you need to break it down. Yeah. And ultimately, you know, friends and family can help in that. But ultimately, you need to want these things for yourself. Otherwise, you can fall prey to that victim mentality that we were talking about at the very beginning. But it's up here. It's an attitude thing.
Yep. Indeed. Yeah, there's a lot.
I'm reading Universe thing. I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all, dude. What? Recently, Daniel G00 found a woman on Quora complaining deaf people are oppressed, claims curing deafness is the same as curing being black.
What? So it's not some... So she's saying deafness doesn't need to be cured. That's weird. I don't really agree with it. And has AK powers.
No. Oh boy. Being deaf sucks. You don't have the use of certain faculties.
Yeah, but I think what she's saying is, like, when she's saying that, is she being racist or she's being stupid or both?
I think that what she's doing is she's picking up on the fact that some people are racist. Right? Some people do disadvantage other people based solely upon skin color. Now, the people that I've seen do this are largely either stupid or have their success somehow contingent upon stupid people. Like Hitler, for example. Like, I don't think he was stupid, but I think that he was able to, you know, rile up people into being racist in order to cultivate an us versus them attitude and rise to power. but the fact of the matter is the actual number of racist people, especially in the West, I would say is relatively small. I mean, they get a lot of media attention because it's wrong, and rightfully you should shine a light on somebody doing something wrong. But because now a light is being shown on everything that is wrong, then people start thinking that everything is wrong, even though, you know, I don't care what color you are. I am not going to let that preclude me from hiring you or cause me to hire you. If you are searching for a job and I am offering a job, your qualifications, your ability to conduct what needs to be done in a job, that's the only thing. I mean, I'm not going to hire you for any other reason. I'm not going to fire you for I mean, I'm not going to hire you for the reason of your skin color. I'm not going to fire you for the reason of your skin color. It's the other stuff. It's the stuff that actually matters that matters. And I would say that most people probably have that. But then if you have a political party, or if you have a movement or something that's predicated upon the idea that there are people that are oppressed, you either need to fabricate oppression or make sure that a certain group of people is always disadvantaged. And you can accomplish that by perpetuating a welfare system. By perpetuating, by essentially rewarding bad behavior. By essentially saying, okay, we are going to subsidize single motherhood, we're going to subsidize all these different things that, you know, WIC subsidizes and welfare subsidizes, then you wind up generating a class of people, an underclass of people that don't have any incentive to pull themselves out, because once you start pulling yourself out, you actually wind up putting yourself into a worse position financially than you were before you started. That is, per my understanding, unequivocally evil.
Yes.
And so this whole, you know, black people or white people or Asian people or any other kind of people being categorically disadvantaged, I would say that there are other factors that factor into it. That ultimately, you know, single mothers and children raised in single parent households, that is very unhealthy. That is very bad. And you know, I think that people should, out of the goodness of their own heart, do certain things they can to ameliorate the situation, but subsidizing it as a lifestyle and thus encouraging it is not the way to fix it. You know, that's where I think the role of private charity and tough love to some extent is necessary. You know, both parents, if you're going to bring someone into the world, take care of that someone. It's your responsibility. Your genetic material. That's my take on the matter.
I agree.
So I'm not going to say that I'm not going to say that black people are categorically disadvantaged. I'm just saying that anybody that can go and get benefits for doing something that would otherwise, if not dissociated from its effect, be a bad cause. If the cause would go and cause, without the government intervention, something bad, whatever that intervention is needs to go away, in order that cause might lead to effect, which might lead to learning, which might lead to ultimately things getting better in the long term. Perhaps, you know, a little bit, and I would really hope that it would be a little bit of short-term pain could lead to a lot of long-term benefit for everybody involved.
Oh my God, she said she's oppressed because she can't use phone calls.
What? Oh boy. And they have speech to text.
I don't even want to like talk about that. That's so stupid.
Okay. There was a guy completely deaf, could not hear a word, could not hear a sound. And I and a friend wound up teaching him how to fly radio-controlled airplanes in competition. You couldn't hear the engine sounds. You couldn't hear the words that your caller was saying to you. You couldn't you couldn't do anything. But the fact of the matter is, we didn't need to be having anyone telling us, "Oh, this is an oppressed minority. Do whatever you can." It was like, "Oh, okay, you want to fly an airplane? Well, let's solve this. Let's figure out what we can do in order to have a communication strategy that works." And what ultimately happened is none of us knew sign language, so we basically wrote a book on scraps of paper and stapled them together with a stapler that somebody happened to have in a box somewhere. We wrote a book as to what it is and said, okay, we're going to go through the first page today in our lessons, and you're going to learn how to do this. And then we just be like, okay, point number two, and then just, quickly flash number 2 in front of it. Okay, remember point number 2. And we just went through it. It's like, we didn't know any different. We didn't know any better. But it's like, okay, fine. What else were you going to do? I didn't know sign language, but I wanted somebody to learn how to fly. So you go and you make... you use your brain.
Yeah.
This thing exists for a reason, and it makes up for a multitude of deficiencies in other areas.
Yep, it does.
Like a deficiency in size. Like if an old lady needs to protect herself, well, that's what firearms are for, right? So that's. I'm just trying to be politically incorrect and scare away people that should be scared away. It's like I'm not. It's like let an old person come up and design a weapon or something to prevent somebody else from taking advantage of them. That's a deficiency. Being old and being decrepit. But you don't see old people going and saying, "Oh, we're an oppressed minority." No, I mean there are parts of human condition. There are parts of the human condition that are not fun. There are parts of the human condition that just suck, and we all deal with it. And it's not fair, but we have to deal with it, and we have up here. And in terms of people that love and care for us, assuming that society goes as you would want it to.
Yep.
And hopefully you would inculcate in society by not messing with cause and effect in terms of subsidizing single parenthood and so on, organic systems for dealing with these sorts of situations.
Yeah.
Haha, two people were scared away. Yay!
Were they?
Yep, 2 people were scared away. This is excellent. People defending Sarah Jeong's tweets. I don't care about Sarah Jeong. I mean, she
I've heard things about her, but
she's a piece of poop. That's the long and the short of it. People are bending over backwards to defend essentially what amounts to hate speech against white people. So some people, some girl, Candace Owens, I know she's been in the media for other reasons because she's basically a conservative pundit who focuses on talking to black people, and it's kind of like she's somewhat disingenuous in certain ways, but then in other ways she went to she was a black person that said the same things about black people as Sarah Jeong said about white people and wound up getting banned off of Twitter, whereas Twitter did not ban Sarah Jeong. And there are all these things where people are performing mental gymnastics in order to show why it's okay to be hateful toward white people and not toward any other group. It's like, well, I believe and I conduct my life such that I don't think that it's right to discriminate against anybody. Like I would say that I mean there are certain things that you can of course do to discriminate who you spend time with and what, but I would say that has more to do with the content of your character. It's like, are you wait a minute, there's somebody else said something about content of character. Who's that? That was Martin Luther King. Yeah. It's but your character matters way more to me. I don't like. I think that at least with me, King winds up having what he wanted. But this whole idea of saying, you know, we need to no, white genocide is okay. Just all of these complete anti certain group of people things, that just needs to stop. I mean, I understand tribalism and all that, and I understand hopping onto bandwagons and all that, but ultimately, all that ever does is showcase your own lack of character and your own lack of intelligence if you're going to do something like that. I don't have any patience for that. I'm just going to go and label Sarah Jeong an idiot and a hateful person and somebody that I don't want around my kids, somebody I don't want in my social circles, somebody that if all she wants to do is
what does she say? I'm looking at her Twitter right now. I don't know what she's about. I don't know anything about her.
I think that she got rid of a whole bunch of you can actually see all of her tweets on an answer put forth by Caleb Beers on Quora.
Oh, awesome! Can you link it?
Or I have to log into Quora first.
Is it recent? You don't have to. Is it recent?
It's pretty recent. It's within the past week. I think Caleb answered it.
Here, I can probably just Google Caleb Beers, Sarah Jeong, and see what happens.
Yeah, he has either one or two answers on that right now. And if either one of you two, if he's in the chat right now, he's free to link it. I think that he's.
Yep, I found it.
Would you mind putting it in the chat for everyone to see?
Yep. YouTube.
Alrighty. Forming a small, isolated community in the Colorado mountains with the way things are going. Well, you know, you're free to do that if you like to do that.
I might have linked the wrong thing. Let's see.
What do you think of Sarah?
Yeah,
you linked the whole.
I clicked the question.
You linked the whole question as opposed to Caleb's.
Well, guys, guess what? Caleb's answer is that no. I'm gonna find it. One second.
Yeah, you might want to go. You might want to go back to the.
Here, let's see.
Okay, here we go. I think I found it. I have to go scroll to the bottom of it. Here we go.
I don't see an image on it. There's supposed to be an image on it.
That's because they collapsed it for him putting the images of Sarah Jeong's tweets.
I want to see the
yeah, he had done that, but apparently they collapsed it for having memes. Oh, yay, one more person gone. No, maybe that just means that they clicked on the link as opposed to that.
Yeah.
So I'll go and I'll take a look for having the actual pictures. Her tweets. Okay, here we go. So, hashtag cancel white people. It's like, have you ever tried to... Oh, boy. White men are BS. No one cares about women. You can threaten anyone on the internet except cops. Oh, wow. Oh, boy, this is... Okay, here we go. This is a 400 by 545. I will, copy the link for all of you lovely listeners to see. So we have dumb but effing white people marking up the internet with their opinions like dogs pissing on fire hydrants. Are white people genetically predisposed to burn faster in the sun, thus logically being only fit to live underground like groveling goblins? Hashtag cancel white people. I need to zoom in a little bit.
That is just racist, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Just. That's like incredibly racist.
White men are BS.
Something analogous about black people or Asian people.
Someone did. A black lady, Candace Owens, did that, and she immediately got banned. I dare you to get on Wikipedia and play things white people can definitely take credit for. It's really hard. And this And then she says, "Oh man, it's kind of sick how much joy I get out of being cruel to old white men." Now just imagine somebody saying, "Oh man, it's kind of sick how much joy I get out of being cruel to old black women." I mean, you just can't. No. I mean, that's just horrible. And, you know...
Candace Owen did that. She got banned for...
Yeah. I mean, they unbanned her quickly once they realized it was a parody, but they banned her.
That's funny.
Which means that they do have double standards. And ultimately, if you wind up having the left going and saying that you can do these things and you can behave this way toward people, well, that just leads me to believe that either A, they're completely misguided, and I certainly hope that's it. I certainly hope that you can't just go and categorically hate a group of people like that. And actually be cognizant of what you're doing. You know, the saying, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," kind of a thing. But if you do that with full knowledge of what it is that you're doing, I will go out of my way to say you are a worthless piece of crap, and I want nothing to do with you. If you think that you can defend her tweets,
yeah, I don't think you really can. These are not very defensible.
If you think that they're defensible, get out, unsubscribe from me, leave. I don't want you subscribed to me. I don't want you watching my crap. I don't want to deal with your stupid, ignorant butt. If you think that this is defensible, just get out. I don't want to deal with you. Now, I can't enforce you to do that. I can't enforce you. I can't enforce that. But ultimately, you and I would have nothing in common, or nothing of significance in common. Because that basically means that everything about human decency that I believe, you don't. So I'm just saying that for the benefit of anybody here. If you want to downvote the video, go right ahead. You want to report me for hate speech, go right ahead. Somebody already reported me for being insincere. And we can play Ring Around the Rosie all history, but I'm not going anywhere. Because people know that you can't just be that way. Like, anybody with a modicum of sense knows you can't do that. And I only want to deal with sensible, caring people. Oh boy.
Oh man.
Now, I'm going to go and say, and not necessarily in defense of her, I really hope she's learned something. I really hope, really hope that she has learned something.
Well, did she get any repercussions?
David Sanderson asks, what are we talking about? He just showed up. Okay, Mr. Sanderson, we are talking about the Sarah Jeong tweets. I love how your Les just kind of taking care of all that. It's awesome. And we've been streaming for 1 hour and 47 minutes. This does not feel like we've been going for that long. This does certainly not feel like we've been going for that long.
How is she only fit to live underground like groveling goblins?
It's like what in the world is that?
Funny. It's so funny. Goblins, they've stopped breeding. We'll all go extinct soon.
It's like, what's the point? What is the
I don't know.
Point?
Who are you? What happened to her? Why is she so mad?
I mean, that sounds like something I would say as a joke.
Yeah, I know. Groveling goblins.
It's getting a little hot out here. I'm a white dude. I guess I'd better go inside and freaking, I don't know, go live in a cave until September. It's like, what do you? It's like this is the substance of. If it weren't serious, it would be the substance of an immense amount of joking. But you can't even turn this into something funny because then you're going to wind up going and taking it seriously. So now we have from each according to his ability, morals, and ethics, emotional control, Sarah Jeong.
What the heck? She's really racist.
Man. Man,
How can someone get a job with tweets like this?
by working for, I mean, that says an awful lot about the people that would hire her, doesn't it? And about their priorities. That tells you way more. That tells you way more about her employer than it does about her.
Yeah, no, I know.
I mean, I'm just going to leave that issue open and let people come to their own conclusions on the matter. As to credibility, as to morality, as to all these different things. I mean, there's one thing, you know, that's saying, okay, you can get multiple perspectives, but really, I mean, you have to be a vile, despicable human being to say those sorts of things. And to essentially condone said behavior after having done due diligence, that's, you know, I'd say that reflects pretty poorly. I'd say that reflects quite poorly.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mr. Stutz, would you mind having some talking? I need to use the facilities, but I don't want to go and have an intermission quite yet because we haven't hit the 2-hour mark.
Sure, I can talk. Let's see. HuffPost was co-founded by the same person who founded Breitbart. Interesting. Well, guys, looks like it's my stream now. Let's see. Let's see. Do you like drawing, Matt? Okay, I like drawing. I did like drawing when I was younger. I don't think Matt likes drawing. I don't know. So. But, let's see. Do you like... let's see. Do I have any drawings, I wonder? Let me look. I don't. Well, there are drawings here, but... No, that's beside the point. But, yeah. By the way, you're the one with OCD now? Official chat director. Oh boy. Yeah, so Sarah Jeong, it's interesting to me. She's quite like openly racist. I don't know. I don't know how that happens. Doesn't make sense to me. I'm looking at her tweets. I can read them. That'd be something to do. Let's see. Are there any good tweets? Oh, you're back, Matt?
Yes, I am.
I was about to start reading tweets.
Ah, cool.
I don't think I'm going to.
I forgot to zip my fly, too. Oops. I did just drink this entire pitcher. It was full of water at the beginning of the stream. So,
oh, wow. That is a lot.
So, oops.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I'm looking... I don't know. It's just interesting to me.
What is interesting
someone like
to you?
that? That can just, like, happen. Like, someone can just be, like, the editor of New York Times. And they're like that. How can that... Or how she can just even have, like, you know, a voice that people are listening to.
Well, I mean, it is. It's a waning, but there is a subset. There is a subset of people that are so buried up to their necks in victimhood mentality that they will jump on any bandwagon that says, okay, someone is an oppressor. Someone is actually against me and wants to oppress me. And it's interesting. If you want to think of anyone that is oppressive, the most oppressive people that I'm aware of are the people that perpetuate the systems that keep people down.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually say the most oppressive people in the world are the people that advocate for a welfare state.
Yeah, that is pretty oppressive. That sort of screws out mobility.
And you have the added difficulty that's like, what's this? How does the proverb go? The devil himself masquerades as an angel of light. So you wind up having that particular perspective masquerading itself very easily, due especially to the name welfare. Well, that, you know, people will fare well under welfare. You know, it sounds really good. And it masquerades as very caring. Well, what do you mean you're against welfare? Don't you care about the poor? Don't you care about the downtrodden? Don't you care? And then when you say, yeah, but I do care, but I would rather do it with my own money. Well, I can't trust other people to do that. So I'm going to say that we just all give our money into this pool and then trust that somebody else will do it appropriately. It's just, you back yourself into so many corners with that. But ultimately, it is in perpetuating that you wind up perpetually being able to get votes in a what's consistently becoming less constitutional as time goes on. Democratic Republic in the United States, for example. Like, as soon as, you know, democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner, and ultimately it favors the wolves. The wolves are the oppressors, not only the people that are voting themselves that from other people, but the people that are touting that as a good idea and representing them. Like, I would say that there are some people that are young and naive and don't know what's going on. But the people that have been around the block, that know better, and still do it, I would say those are the real oppressors. And I think, and I don't know if I even, I may or may not dare bring it up, but I think, well, if we look at this, I'll put a link in the description. It's not even it's interesting because I'm searching for.
Sarah Jeong doesn't have a good grammar, by the way.
What did you say?
Her grammar isn't even good. Like that tweet about white people being goblins doesn't make much sense. Are white people genetically predisposed to burn faster in the sun, thus logically being only to fit, only being fit, are being only fit to live underground like groveling goblins? But it was started with a question. There's no question mark, and it's like, it just doesn't make much sense.
I'm going to download a short video, and I'm going to put it on or I'll put a link in the description.
I'm very proud
of probably one of the most telling things you guys We'll see. It's a 23-second clip, and I don't care if the viewership of this stream goes down to 0 in these 23 seconds, but I will give you this link, and we'll go on to have an 8-minute intermission as soon as I put this link into the description. And after we come back from intermission, we can have a talk about true oppression. And I don't mean to get political. I don't think that this is a place to specifically state political positions. Now I do certainly have beliefs, but I would say generally that that there is an immense amount of apathy and perhaps even hatred and contempt shown by this following link. Now I'm going to push enter, and I'm going to begin our intermission. For some reason the thing didn't move. Oh well, I guess I'll just turn the clock down to 6 minutes and see if it's possible to get that thing going. We'll see if that works.
Alright.
There we go. Okay, now I can go and mute the mic again. And, okay. Well, we're back.
Hello.
And so the point of those videos that I put in the chat during the break wasn't necessarily to say anything particular, to make a political statement, but rather to simply suggest that the idea that low unemployment of black people isn't worth applauding might be explained by the idea that maybe politicians are basing getting elected off of this idea that they can go and make promises to people for their votes by promising to give free stuff. And if they don't get free stuff, or rather that people won't want the free stuff if they have the satisfaction of being employed and of being able to earn what they get. There is an intrinsic satisfaction of doing a job, doing it well, and getting compensated accordingly. I mean, I have done all sorts of different work, and I would say out of all the things that make me the most satisfying, some of it was being able to do good concrete work. And I mean concrete isn't like pouring concrete and working really, really hard, busting my butt. Nowhere near as hard as, say, manual laborers of 100 years ago, because, you know, you had concrete mixers and all these other different things that, you know, you have electricity and gasoline and all these things that make it easier, but still, working a hard day's work, you know, from 7 in the morning or earlier, maybe 6 or 5 in the morning until 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at night, knowing that I made something that's going to be there, that was satisfying. Getting paid to do it, that was satisfying. Getting paid to help somebody get into medical school, that's satisfying. Getting paid to do something beats being given something for free.
Yeah, it really does.
Any day. Because you can have the satisfaction, the internal satisfaction of knowing I deserve this.
Mm-hmm.
And so the promise of free stuff doesn't work as well on people that have both gotten free stuff and earned stuff, and that have realized that earning stuff is better than getting stuff for free. And so I would say that not applauding is indicative of the fact that people may realize that making promises with other people's money doesn't work when people are self-sufficient.
Yeah.
That was the only reason I brought this up. But I think that the picture, the video, is worth 1,000 words in that case. I'm just, chagrined. I'm chagrined at the fact that people wind up politicizing things so much and politicizing their hatred for a particular political party or person to the point where you can't even be happy for people that are pulling themselves out of poverty, given the freedom so to do.
Yeah.
I love seeing people pulling themselves out of poverty. I love seeing people succeed. And Say's law of economics says that if you want to be rich, I mean, I'm paraphrasing now and talking about some implications. It says if you want to be rich, you'll want other people to be rich too. Because you can only ultimately become rich and get what you want by trading something of value for something of value. And if other people aren't around making valuable things, then you're not going to be getting much value in return for what you do. So Say's law says that even the most selfish person will want other people to be rich, assuming that he's actually acting in his own best interest. But if you have Mr. Status Monkey going and chatting in your ear, you don't want to have other people be rich, that's not good. Well, then that's bad for everybody, including yourself. But you know, some people might be okay, some people might like it. People might prefer it.
Yeah.
Thomas Sowell's point about the government subsidizing single motherhood in the black community and the troubles that has led to. I think that subsidizing single motherhood anywhere is a bad idea.
Yeah. Because that means you want that to happen.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well,
or it gives an incentive to do that.
When one's words and one's actions don't match up, I tend to believe one's actions.
Yeah. It makes more sense.
Yeah, that's about all I have to say on that particular matter. Mr. Stutz, did you have anything else that you'd like to discuss during the stream?
Well, I always have, there's interesting news in the Starcraft community.
Go ahead.
That's good.
Have at it. Unfortunately,
well,
I've run out of room in the video description, so I can just say etc. or and more or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Just say etc. Yeah. So right now, so in Starcraft, which I said before, but I'll say it again. Foreigners are people who aren't Korean, because the game is like Korea is its home. Like everyone, and like throughout all of history, all of Starcraft's history, Koreans have just dominated, like really dominated, like really, like it's hard to it's hard to come up with an analogy in another sport because it just doesn't exist. Oh, okay, well, I mean, I guess like if I wanted to be like weirdly, it's kind of like, and this is not, and it's for a different reason too. So this is not a perfect analogy, but it's kind of like black people in pro basketball, and this is different. There's different reasons.
It's like it's notable if you're a white person playing pro ball. It's notable if you're not a Korean and you're somehow still competitive in Starcraft.
Exactly.
It's notable if you're not a white person and good at skiing. It's notable if you're a black person and good at swimming. There are just these things that are anomalies, and one of them is not being from South Korea and still being good at video games.
Yes, and
especially really, really high skill cap ones like Starcraft.
Right, where it's So and the thing is, they like really, it's crazy. But right now, a foreigner might be one of the best players in the world is a foreigner, like for sure. But the best player might be a foreigner too. This one guy from Finland, Sarel, and he won a tournament with like there's this thing called GSL, which is a tournament in Korea, which is huge. And foreigners are allowed to come play in GSL, but they don't really do much. And he didn't. It's not there's. And then there's this event, GSL versus the world. So basically, the way Starcraft is structured is there's this big tournament at the end of the year. It's this thing called BlizzCon, because Blizzard, you know, the gaming company, or Blizzard, I guess, entertainment company in general. You know, they hold the tournament at the end of the year. It's got like a $200,000 prize for the first place. And so, you know, but the way people qualify is through tournaments throughout the year. And so there's Korea, there's WCS, which is World Circuit Starcraft, I think. And essentially, you know, so there's the people in Korea playing their tournaments, the GSL, for example. And then there's the other people out of Korea, like the foreigners. And then they have, so there's 8 spots for Koreans and there's 8 spots for non-Koreans in the BlizzCon. So it's not just all Korean people. And while it might seem unfair, it's like, well, if it was a true meritocracy, then only the best would play. But actually, it's better for the scene to have some foreigners doing well. Like it is better for the game in general. Like it actually promotes player growth, and like the pro scene is more healthy when there's like decent representation. And basically, though, there's this tournament called GSL versus the world, where the best players from the WCS, which is people outside of Korea, and the best people from GSL, which are the Koreans, play together. And this guy won it, and he's non-Korean, and he beat like really good Koreans to get like really good. And he doesn't have some fluky play style. He doesn't have. It's not like a fluke. He's just really good. Like, It's not just he has a strategy he's abusing or he's going off of a balance patch. Like, he's actually really good. Just amazing actually at the game. And yeah, it's really cool to see him play. And watching, I showed Matt some of his first person before. He's just really fast and just really good at everything. It's like really interesting though, because there's been a 20-year span in StarCraft. And this is by far the best non-Korean there's ever been. Like, just like hands down. Like, winning a premier tournament as a non-Korean has happened like 3 times before in StarCraft's history. Once was at the beginning of StarCraft 1 in like 1998. You know, or it was like 1999 or 1998. Some, like, the game was so new that, like, yeah, people could win. Like, there wasn't enough time for Koreans to like build a gap from foreigners. And then in 2016, an American guy won a tournament, but he won it off of he's really good. He's still an amazing player, but it was kind of fluky in the sense that it was right after a balance patch, and essentially like there was a new meta for Protoss versus Protoss, which was what he played. And he like got ahead, like he's way ahead of the curve. He was on the new meta. He basically like was just playing a style that was the correct way to play that patch, and he was ahead of the Koreans. They hadn't done that, so they didn't really know what to do. And so it wasn't really like better play that got him through. It was just like a better strategy that like happened to work really well at the time. It was very timely. Like, he hasn't won anything like that since. But this guy just won straight up. And it's just never happened, and it's really, really interesting, and it's awesome to watch. But yeah, so it's pretty exciting actually, for like StarCraft fans. I guess that's sort of that's not, you know, not very salient to whatever we're doing, but
well, if we're talking about excellence and getting what it is we deserve and so on, then it's always salient. It's like, what makes somebody good at something. And it's okay if we're repetitive. I mean, the fact of the matter is, repetition is the mother of all learning. You know, in other words, if you wind up saying things over and over again, you know, sometimes it might get through. Yeah. And if still I haven't been clear, you know, repetition is the mother of all learning.
Yeah, but guys, guess what?
What?
Repetition is the mother of all learning.
I'm not sure I understand. Would you please repeat?
Yeah, repetition is the mother of all learning.
Okay. Got it. Got it. So that means, like, if I want to learn something, hearing it multiple times and seeing it in multiple ways and going through it and just kind of getting it pounded through my head is going to help. And yeah, what I'm also really interested in right now, this is something that is very unmapped in my mind, but very, very interesting to me and really cool. But essentially, it's within the realm of StarCraft, and specifically StarCraft 2, not the first one. But I'm interested in like how people improve and what separates certain players who just are really good and they just are talented. They're extremely talented, and then they like, I'm looking, for example, one way to measure like how good you are is leagues. There's leagues in StarCraft, and I've taught you it's bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, masters, and grandmasters. Grandmasters being the top 200 players from each region. Masters being, you know, the top 2% or something really high. So here's the thing, masters and grandmasters, there's a considerable difference between barely making it to either one. And even this, the biggest gap in StarCraft skill is low grandmaster to high grandmaster. It's really interesting. Like a low grandmaster player and like a top 10 grandmaster player, like one of them is gonna slaughter. One of them is gonna get completely decimated. Like just. It's like the biggest gap. So and it's within. So it follows a Pareto distribution. And I have this website I'm looking at. It's called, like, let's see, it's called Ranked for the Win, I think. Yeah. And it essentially has like rankings in years. So it has just picture it has on the x-axis time, so years. On the y-axis, it has percentile,
going up from, you know, bottom percentile to top. And it has these nice little shades for the league, so you can tell, you know, what league that person's in and what percentile players they're better than and stuff. And you can look at people over time, how they improved, etc. And I'm looking at, like, so for example, my friend is so, like, really good at StarCraft, like really talented. Like he got Masters pretty dang quick. Like, I'm not a Masters player. I'm Diamond, like mid to high Diamond. And I don't play 1v1 that much. I like the team games. Just it's less stress. I'm not always in there like wanting to get cutthroat and beat people. Sometimes I just like I really like the mechanics. Like, I love playing StarCraft. It's really satisfying to control units, do a lot of actions and stuff like that. But my end goal is to get into Masters, of course, while playing the game. But you can look on the progression. You can see where, like, okay, so how, you know, most people are pretty steady progression, or they're kind of stagnant or whatever. But like, so my friend, like, if I look at his, I can pull it up right now. Torlaw, let's see. So if I look him up, and go to 1v1. He has quite nice progression, like very nice. Especially, like, he jumped from gold to diamond very abruptly within one season. He just jumped like a bit. He went up, so in the span of, let's see, like 1 month, he went from the top, I can look at 40, he was in the top, you know, 48% of people. He's the 52nd percentile, to the top 11%. So he was the 89th percentile, which is a big jump. Like, that's a huge jump in a month to make. It's like, that's crazy. And then he went decently quickly. Now he's a master in the top, you know, it says 3% for his skill level right now. And then, but even so, like, that's still surprising. Like, I've met one other player who did better than that. But, and there's certain players, you look at their match history and they're just not getting that much better. And there's a talent aspect of this game, obviously. Like, there's talent. And what I'm interested in is what differentiates that talent. Like, what makes someone good at StarCraft and what makes them improve at StarCraft. Like, what things, and while they're improving, what things are they getting better at? Like, decision making, like, what's going on? I wonder, because, for example, now the most extreme example I have, I'm going to pull this up. This is surprising. Like, this, to someone who's not into StarCraft, this all, like, so far might seem boring and like, oh, what the hell? I don't really care. Or like, not, you know, might not be getting that much out of it. But let me find this guy. So this is my friend. He wanted to tutor me. He wanted to teach me StarCraft, this guy, at one point, because he said I was pretty good or something. I was doing something right. But this guy, so he starts out at Gold League. His first league is Gold League, in the top 50th percentile people within 3 months.
So he's an average player.
Yeah, just straight up average. This is his first time, you know, playing ranked. Average player. He goes from gold to grandmasters in 3 months. Really, like, extreme. In 1 month, he's at masters and like rank, you know.
How much time did he spend?
And he's in the top high masters too. This isn't just low masters. This is like the top less than a percentile of people playing the game in 1 month of playing. Really, like, freakish growth. And then he stayed at grandmasters, and he wants to, and then he dipped. He didn't, like, he was trying to be pro. And I'm wondering what this guy is like. Like, I don't know him in real life. Because, like, he wanted to be pro in StarCraft, like, when he plays. Like, when he plays video game, he wants to be pro in it. That's obviously a differentiator from the rest of the world, right? Like, not everyone wants to just be pro at everything they do. But he's like, I want to be professional. And he's like, oh, there's not that much. He's like, oh, there's not enough money in StarCraft. So he just switched games. He switched to Overwatch. he got Grandmaster in Overwatch very quickly as well. Like the top, whatever the top in Overwatch. I'm assuming he's Grandmaster. And then he's like, oh, I'm back to StarCraft. He comes back right now. Like he came back recently to play back to Grandmaster, like right away. Like no skill drop off. Not playing for over a year and a half. Just, oh, I'm back. And he's just like, that is incredible. Like, this is like really wild. I'm, for example, like in the top, I'm like a diamond player, and I'm in the top 10% basically of players. And to me, that, like, for example, like, that doesn't sound that impressive to me. But it's like the difference, like, when people play a game, like, they're doing that on purpose. Like, because I always think of it like, when I'm thinking of percentiles, for example, I'm always thinking of, like, where's that percentile? Like, what is it? What population are you comparing it to? So, like, having a high percentile, for example, on the ACT, like, is yeah, it's good to be in the 99th percentile and everything, of course. But you're also, like, not everyone taking the ACT is putting their all into it. A majority of people are just taking it and seeing what they do.
And then if you go and you look at, say, people that wind up having a successful career in research, how many of them get below the 95th percentile?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And exactly. But, like, people who play video games, they're doing it because they want to and they enjoy it. And people who pick StarCraft are doing it because they want something competitive and fun and like a hardcore video game, right? Like, these aren't, like, the general population of StarCraft players is not the same as just any video game's general population, and just a normal general population. Like, so me being in the top 10% of that means more than me being in the top, like, maybe 2% of some other type of video game, just because the competitiveness and who's playing and what type of thing it is. But this guy shooting through that player, but, like, shooting up, like, from gold, literally dead average to, like, the best, one of the best in the world in, like, a few months. Like, that is weird. Like, that's freakish. I'm wondering what
consistent improvement.
Very consistent and very quick improvement.
Well, I've discovered, and this is teaching people with the MCAT, right, medical college admissions test.
Yeah.
And so you can take this for what it's worth. The people that I was the most impressed with were the people that you explained to them what needed to take place. You give them a general principle of, okay, get good at these things, and who were able to self-direct, who were able to realize, oh, the reason I failed this time the previous time, or the reason I wasn't good like I wanted to be, was because of this, and this. Then they would just go and self-diagnose all their problems. Figure out which ones were worth the most number of additional points, which ones were the highest yield for them, and just knock them out in terms of highest yield thing first. Just what gives you the biggest improvement, what gives you the biggest net improvement. So you just go in and figure out. Yeah. So the meta skill is characterize what it is that you're doing. Characterize the skills involved. Prioritize skill development based on what gets you ahead the quickest at any given point. And then do it.
And that's what he did. And it's just awesome. Like, it's so cool. Like, that's so cool to me. Like, how good he got so quickly. Like, that's awesome. That must be, and, like, for him, that must have been so fun. Think of how fun, like, improvement's fun. But imagine, like, being average and then just being great, like, so quickly. Like, that would feel great. And, like, that would make you want to play the game. And, like, yeah, like, it's just, like, so cool, like, how quickly he got good. And it's inspiring. Like, I'm like, well, I want to do that too. So, you know, I think next season my goal is just to get masters really as quickly as I can. Because it just, and that should start soon. I believe the season will end, current season of StarCraft will end soon, and then the next one starts. And, like, but it's really just, like, holy crap, like how quickly, and how other people just stagnate and don't get better for a long time. And he's just like, yeah, well, you know, just improved. And it's just, you know, really cool to see.
Indeed.
And
oh, yeah.
And like Like, but it's like that. I cannot undermine. Like, that's still incredible improvement. Like, even for people with that mindset, that's incredible improvement. Like, he's
incredible.
I think he's obviously
incredible. What? That means unbelievable. I mean, I've seen people improve in all sorts of realms.
That's true.
In that way, it just takes attitude and proper execution.
Well, yeah, right. Well, that's what, and that's not.
It's
initially, I will say it is like I will stand by the statement that it's incredible because like it is almost like for us now, of course, when we're talking about this, and we understand growth and how people can change and like, but for someone who might not be thinking about those things, like someone who just
first adopt a growth mindset, right. That in and of itself is a huge challenge.
Yes. And the people who just see gold to Master League, like, that's just, like, whoa. People just see that. That does seem incredible. Like, it's like, what? And then Grandmaster the next season? Like, not just, oh, I stopped at Masters. Like, no, he's just gunning. And he definitely was practicing a lot and playing a lot, like, no doubt. But, he just, you know, like, I don't know. I would like to message him just to see what's up. I'll probably message him next time I see him online, because we're friends. But like, geez, like that's crazy. But really an amazing example of like what you can sort of do, especially with focus. Like, okay, I need to improve on this. Just practice that. Like, I need to improve on this, and then it becomes unconscious, and you can do it now.
One thing that I recommend is and you're going to do it obviously is get a coach.
Yes.
Or at least get somebody that's been there. But like it really takes an awful lot to pioneer something. But then ultimately, let's say you're starting with a completely new game. Then what you wind up doing is emulating other people and or being innovative and establishing what the meta game is. And then once the metagame has been established, whether it's a particular collection of openings that a chess master might use, or rather more like a certain repertoire that's generally understood as being good, and then everything else is understood as being crap that you just don't play. Once that general framework has been laid, then you can analyze things yourself. And for something like chess, that's easy because all you do is count moves and calculate and look at positions and so on. But if something is more dynamic and more complex, then the analysis can also be more difficult, and so it could be easier to get a perspective from somebody that's already been there.
The analysis becomes pretty like thematic at that point. Like you're looking for general themes, and like StarCraft, you're looking for like what is generally happening here? Like what's the theme of what's going on, and what matter of principle.
But then once you do get to the top, then you wind up getting to the point where okay, there really is nobody else that I can do that. I need to actually start innovating.
Yep.
But you can't really innovate unless you have the context first. Otherwise, it's going to be hit or miss. But if you do have the context, it's going to be hit and hit and hit and hit and hit. Because your innovation is going to be predicated upon solid knowledge.
Yeah. Exactly.
But but based on the percentiles, I would say don't even think about innovating until you hit high Grandmaster.
Oh yeah. No, don't even. Just watch pros. And there's really good pros to watch and model after. I mean, even other pros model after better pros. It's really interesting to me, like StarCraft, like how crazy it scales. Like the difference between Bronze League and like Diamond League, which is a big difference. Believe me, trust me, is like almost the same as within the top league. Like there's a comparison to be made between those. It's really cool, like how literally the top are just so good, and then there's oh gosh, it's just really interesting to me. Like I like having representations ahead of things, and it really like messes everything up because it's just like you have to have this weird model for like to account for like how top heavy it is, how really good the people at the top are, and how, but still like everyone can improve and become quite good, and it makes sense. Like if I think about like my league, I'm diamond, and that's, you know, I'm in the top 10%, and I don't feel good at the game. Like when I compare myself to like a noob or someone who hasn't played much, I feel very good at the game. I feel like, wow, they can't do anything. But like when I compare myself to like a really good...
You heard what you just said.
I do hear what I just said.
Okay.
Yes.
So would you please specify that for anybody else watching or anybody else that may watch this later?
If I consider myself next to a noob, I feel quite good. Very good. Like I feel like a world of difference, actually. Like I don't feel like they'll beat me in a million years. But if I compare myself...
But what did you say? Your focus was not on how good you were, it was on their inadequacy.
Yes. And then I said, but if I compare myself to a better player, I feel bad. Like I'm like, dang, I suck.
So that means your thinking is already predicated upon this thing that there is this ideal called good play.
Yeah, there is good play. Yes, and it's very relative. Like the whole thing's very relativistic. That's why I even bring in other players into it, because it's like in a vacuum, it's like I don't know what the best I could do is, and I don't know what the worst I could do is, and I don't know what the average play is. Like I just don't know what the best play is. I can only compare myself to other players in figure out like how good I am. Like that's how the MMR and how the leagues work is, you know, you're compared to other players. So yeah, that's sort of where I am with that.
You are compared to other players, but ultimately the only way you're ever going to wind up climbing is by becoming better than yourself.
And that's very true. Very true. And you can always find weakness in your play, like always, just easily off the top of your head. You can be like, well, I screwed up there a lot,
and
really badly.
And from a meta skill perspective, it's actually quite important when it comes to developing yourself, because if you've spent your whole time comparing yourself to other people and feeling good about beating somebody, then pretty soon, when you get to the point where there's nobody left to beat, you can either stagnate or you can continue to grow and push new frontiers.
That's what those top players are doing.
If you have that mindset of constantly improving, constant improvement, be better than you were yesterday over and over again, that is way more healthy than be better than X person, or be better than Y person.
Oh yeah, exactly. And a very good highlight of that is my experience with standardized testing in high school, especially. Just like really doing well, and even when I take like college, like graduate admissions exams, like, you know, I'll hit like in the 99th percentile with every test I take. But like being very like satisfied with that score and be like, oh, cool. Like, oh, awesome. Like, good job, me. That's awesome. Good. You're so good. Like, oh, like that's not like a good mindset to have at all, because, you know, here's the thing. Maybe you are smarter. Maybe you can do something well, really well. Like comparing yourself to other people doesn't improve. Like you're not going to get better. Like, especially if you're happy with your performance right off the bat. Like, oh, you did really well without even putting any effort. That's cool. But like, where's the improvement? Like
So that would be like equivalent to what, starting to play Starcraft and then having having a really good group of friends and then starting off and then becoming high platinum and then never getting any better.
Yes, it's literally that's a really great example. It's like doing that. You're like, well, among my friend group, I destroyed them. I'm way better right off the bat, and then never improving, and you know, and like so, and that's not like, and it's easy to fall into that. We're social creatures, right? Like part of like you'll have to compare yourself to someone else at some point, probably throughout your life. Like it's just like when I compare myself to a pro, it's like I'm not comparing myself to them, like evaluating, but I'm looking like, oh, how can I get better? Let me look at them. Let's see how they, you know, you're indirectly comparing yourself in that circumstance. Like, where do our plays not add up? What are they doing that I'm not, that's better? And so basically, like, that's not going to, but that mindset like of, oh, you know, just compare myself to other people, it's not going to power you through. And it happened to me in high school. I destroyed the standardized tests I took really early, not because I did some crazy, you know, prep or something, or put in a ton of work. I just happened to, you know, have a good brain for that sort of thing. And I sort of like rested on that laurel. Like I was like, and it helped. Like it did help. Like I got, you know, the best merit-based scholarship at my school, and I beat out, you know, hundreds and hundreds of other kids for these scholarships and all these things. But like, it was, you know, but I could be doing much more than that, right? Like there's much more I could be doing that'd be much more interesting, and I could, you know, be learning lots of cool things, and it's stuff like this. And sort of like I am doing lots more that I wasn't before, and I'm much more happy with my trajectory nowadays than I was in the past. But like you know, I just I did well, so I'll just stop. And that's like the lazy thinking, like, oh hey, I don't have to do any more than this. Like this is fine. And then on the other hand, poorly. Like for example, Starcraft is like pretty hard for me. Like with ADHD, it's very real time, very like lots of details, lots of making sure you don't make any stupid like small mistakes, and you can like everything can fall apart with like some dumb error. And I'm very prone to dumb errors. So like, while I would have a nice strategy, or I'd understand how the game works, or like I'd have good like real time decision making, with poor with some stupid detail error, I'd make mistakes. And so while I'm better than the average player and you know, a good player, I by no means consider myself like, you know, like it's something that I does not naturally come from me that I like doing. And so I find it as a good place that I'm going to, you know, practice improvement on, and seeing like a skill that I can build and get better at. And when I saw, it was like one of those, like throughout my life, I was like, you know, in school and academic stuff and like sports and stuff, it would just come quite easily to me. And I got really in the habit of just comparing myself to other people and be like, oh man, the world is just easy, man. Like things are just easy. Like, what can I say? Like I'd play soccer and do really well, you know, compared to like the small pool of players in my region, and be like, oh, it's like, you know, you don't have to put effort, you don't have to work for things, you just do them and you be the best. You just are. And that's like a bad mindset to have. And StarCraft is like the first like big thing, like where you're really being compared to other people, where I was like, wow, I'm just not the best at this right away. Like this is like hard. Holy crap.
Because people like you gravitate toward things like that.
Yeah.
Nose to the grindstone.
Yep.
That's once you get to that point where you want to improve, grit. There's not these, you know, people that want a list of, you know, the top 5 things to success. Aside from knowing what you need to do, there's two things necessary for success. 1, knowing what you need to do, and 2, doing it consistently. That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all it's ever been.
Right. Exactly.
And then you wind up having, you know, this billion-dollar industry of self-help stuff. And it's like mostly just. I recall there was this one show, maybe it was on the Discovery Channel or something like that. I was little at the time, and it was like, I think it was, we had just gotten cable TV or something, and we were so excited to saw this. There was a show on addiction, and there was this one guy that said, okay, 12-step programs are garbage. Said, or rather, I have my own 12-step program. It's called, the first 11 steps don't mean excrement. The 12th step is just don't do it. It's like, good for you, dude.
Yeah.
Good for you. It's like you just decided you're not gonna be on meth anymore, and then you just stopped.
Right. And my parents, for example, like, so my parents, for example, my mom is 65, I think, and my dad is 59. Don't quote me on that.
Well, it seems like both of our moms robbed the cradle.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
To the same extent, too. You have the 6-year-olds robbing the cradle. Woo!
Yeah, they're coming in. Yeah, they're going all the way from the whatever the stroller to whatever the 6-year-olds use. But anyway, very good joke, right? Like I just kind of described kind of what I wanted to go. But anyway, and you know, smoking was a big thing. Like just not marijuana, but like cigarettes. Like they were just common. The health risks were not known that well at all. Like as well, I think they were like people knew. Like I don't think anyone was like, "Oh, this is good for you." Like
inhaling tar is good.
Inhaling just smoke and breathing it out, and it kind of burns. And if you like, it's like that's probably not the best for you. But like no one, I mean, it's reasonable to think that they didn't realize like cancer was going to happen and all these pretty bad things. And like that. So like, you know, once the health risk came out there and like lung cancer and all this, like just, it's so bad for you. Like, it's like, you know, drinking alcohol is bad for you, but drinking in moderation, you know, well, anything in moderation, that's not a very good,
smoking in moderation is good for you. No.
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 But like, it's like there's certain things with like decent, like with normal habits, like say you drink a glass of wine every night, like it's not gonna, I don't think you're gonna have
that will help with your longevity. If ceteris paribus, and assuming other healthy habits, it'll help with your longevity.
Yeah, literally. And so, but I feel like if you smoke a pack of cigarettes, which is not the same, like that's not equivalent. Like that'd be more like, you know, drinking a lot more alcohol, but if you smoke a few cigarettes every day for a while, for a long time, it's like it's bad.
That's
it's bad
deleterious.
Like people didn't.
It's unequivocally deleterious.
People didn't realize like how bad it was. People probably knew it was bad, but they didn't realize like shit. This is like not real. This is really not good. And so once my mom's like, she'd been smoking like a lot for a long time, like not a long time, maybe, you know, maybe a year or something. She'd been, you know, smoking, like probably had a mild dependence or something. I don't know. I don't really know the details.
Well, nicotine is one of the most addictive things in the world. So
he's like, well, I heard it was bad, so I just stopped cold turkey. Just stopped. And then my dad did something. He's like, oh, this is bad. Stopped. They just stopped. And I, for example, I don't have an addictive personality. If there's something I'm doing and I'm like, well, this is bad, I don't want to do that, just stop. Because it's really easy. It's also easy for me to not. It's easy for me to not do something. Like it requires more action to go do something than it does, or more effort to do something than it does to not. So it's like, well, I just won't do that.
Oh yeah.
It's for me. On the other hand, it's much harder to make myself do something that I don't want to do. That's much more difficult than just stopping something. But you know, the curse of the pee, right? I don't
want to get up to pee.
All these INTPs, ENTPs. They're the worst. No, but so yeah, it's just interesting. It's just interesting. Some people like. I wonder what constitutes like an addictive personality.
I mean, yes, there are certain people that have brains that are more, you know, it has to do with the way you respond to dopamine.
Yes.
But also, studies have gone and shown that if you go and you treat something as if it's no big deal, like like for example, you don't treat it as this gigantic thing. Oh, I'm going to do this huge hurdle. You just, oh yeah, I'm going to quit smoking. You treat it in a nonchalant way. Then you will immediately put it in the category of things that aren't all that hard to do, and then you're not going to overly psych yourself out of doing it in any conceivable way. It's like excellent people are generally excellent across the board because they have a mindset of being good at whatever you do, and that's just kind of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
The thing you do is you be good at what you do, and
Right.
whatever that means for you. So if someone wants to be good at something, it's just you just decide, okay, I'm going to do what it takes, and I'm going to recalibrate my expectations. Like if you haven't been good at something for a long time, and all of a sudden you decide you're going to get good, well then your expectations need to change. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of pain, a little bit of humble pie, actually constant infusions of humble pie if you want to keep on getting better. And if you're prepared for that, if you're mentally prepared for that,
Yeah.
you know, if you're mentally prepared, yeah, this nicotine withdrawal is going to suck. Now, granted, I've never had nicotine withdrawals or anything like that, although I have had some friends that, shall we say, spiked my coffee with nicotine. But that's another that's another story.
Well, I've had nicotine out of. I one time had nicotine poisoning, but I have never had any nicotine dependence. It was out of stupidity.
So you chain smoked a pack
we
or
thought,
two?
No, we thought tobacco and the bong would be just funny.
Okay. Well, you deserve that.
It was pretty funny. It was like, holy crap, you feel it really, like, wow, you get a head rush.
Yeah,
and whoa, the room is spinning, and wow, the toilet looks pretty clean right now. Like, I don't know, that's sort of how it progresses. Yeah. Really, like, I just hate nicotine now. I hate it. Like, I don't think it's possible for me to get addicted to it. My body's just like, screw that. Like, you know, have you heard of the Juul? Like it's like JUUL. It's pretty big in the US, but it's like a little vape, like a little nicotine like thing. It's like a very like portable, like really like this big, and it's like a vape. And people like are addicted. Like people get addicted to this little thing. Just it's so huge, it's like so widespread.
Cigarette 2.0.
Yeah, it's like not as bad for you. That's
yeah. You're not inhaling tar, but
yeah, there's no tar, but it's not probably not good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, like it's just really widespread. A lot of people like do it, and not like they just do it a lot, and they just keep doing it. They're like addicted to juuling, and it's a whole thing. And like if I hit the Juul, I feel gross. Like if I am exposed to nicotine, my body's like, screw you. Like, no, never have that shit again.
So you have that particular blessing. For those that are dependent upon nicotine, and I'm going to tell you, first and foremost, I've never been. That's not me, but I do know people that have been. And the biggest thing that I've noticed about the people that have been able to kick it are having it in proper perspective, understanding that withdrawals happen, understanding that cravings happen, but having a healthy attitude toward them as opposed to, you know, thinking that they spell the end of the world.
Yeah.
And that's the way to make any habit work too. Like it's like, okay, I know that I need to get up early, so I'm just gonna do it. I know that I need to exercise, so I'm just gonna do it. Yeah,
right.
I'm out of shape, and my legs are gonna burn for like the first 3 or 4 weeks once I get, running every day. I'm used to staying up late, so the first time I get up at whatever time I'm going to get up in the morning, it's going to suck, and then it's going to feel like crap for 3 or 4 days doing it. But is getting past these original hurdles. Getting past these things where we have expectations that, oh, well, I should just be able to exercise the willpower and that's enough. And it's not going to be, difficult. Or you kind of have this thing that, oh, I'm going to pump myself up and it's not. Well, no, there are these things that you're just going to have to take in stride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nicotine withdrawal headaches for if you quit smoking. Caffeine withdrawal headaches if you quit drinking coffee. Pain and unpleasant feelings if you start exercising.
Yes, that's for me. There it is.
Yeah, difficulty getting up in the morning if you decide you want to get up in the morning at the same time every day.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide you're going to eat only in an 8-hour window, you're going to start one. I eat from 2 until 10, and I've been gradually pushing it back 5 minutes at a time. So I'm going to be eating from 4 to 8, 4 in the afternoon until 8. So a 4-hour time window. So 20 hours of not eating in a day and 4 hours of eating, and just every week I'm decreasing the interval, my eating window, and that means currently now at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I get, I'm not going to say a hunger pang because pang implies something severe, but I get hungry. I start salivating. The
hunger pangs start. That's always what the weight loss people say. Like,
yeah,
hunger pangs. All this, they're like trying to make it some big deal so you can buy into their program.
Yeah, but ultimately, I've noticed that what happens is you just wind up changing your expectations. You wind up changing your habits, and at the first, like it's way easier, I think, to go and first change the times that you eat. And just be like, okay, I'm going to ignore my breakfast craving and get a cup of coffee instead. And then just not eat until after lunch. Or like not eat until dinner time. Or whatever it is you pick.
Mm-hmm.
And then you learn to ignore that one craving. And it's like, okay, well, I've proven that I can do that. I now have a track record of being able to do that. Now I can go and be like, okay, if I have a craving for a certain food, like, okay, we'll just nix out simple sugars. Let's nix out simple carbs. Okay, done with that. And just those little things make a huge difference. And every single victory makes every single subsequent victory easier because you have a track record and a reputation and so on of doing things right.
Yeah.
So you get yourself started with little things on the right pattern, on the right path, have reasonable, congruent with reality expectations. And you're well on your way. It's not rocket science. Success never has been.
Oh, there's a whole conversation I've been looking at.
Ah. Steven's self-help book. Just don't do it. Except weed.
Except weed.
Oh boy.
Fun stuff. Yes, let's see.
Alright, hey, Yurba, why don't you, I have an idea for you. For every single packet of cigarettes you buy, wire me the amount into PayPal.
That'll teach you. Wow, these are really expensive. Holy crap.
And ultimately, I'm not going to like say that this is going to cut down on your stress. Because the fact of the matter is there are certain things in life that are very, very stressful. And nicotine does tend to help with that sort of a thing. But what I will suggest is that there are other things that can help more. Or that will be more permanent and less damaging form of...
exercise.
Exercise really helps. Getting up consistently, remaining hydrated, not eating crap. Just these very basic things that, your grandma can tell you to do.
Yoga, meditation, all that stuff. Good stuff. I think meditation's really good, or just like mindfulness, whatever you want to call it.
Mindfulness is very good as long as you're not being mindful about idiot things.
Mindful about the wrong things.
Yeah. Hold on, just let me get high, and then I can tell you exactly how I feel when I am high. I'll write a journal about it. Make a pie about it. Take some pictures of it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I made pot brownies. Just let you all know how I feel. No.
Yeah. It's like, yes.
Oh,
and then I don't know, because you can do pretty much anything in an unhealthy and a healthy way, like almost anything, even drugs. Which is like, and you can do, like, literally, it's interesting to think. It's just like being mindful about how you do certain things and what you're doing in your life. And like thinking back and evaluating, like, okay, where can I improve? Like, what's going on? What's wrong here, etc. And just step by step, sort of fixing that.
Yeah, you can do heroin in a healthy way. Everyone, just don't.
Not that. Some drugs. Okay, not like you can smoke cigarettes in a healthy way. Like not literally.
No, you can't smoke cigarettes
in
a healthy way.
Not to where it's improving your health. Okay, but to where it's like not like a huge deal. Like it's not affecting you that much.
I'm guessing like maybe 3 or 4 cigarettes a month. You could conceivably not have too much ill effects, but still I wouldn't recommend it.
Yes. Maybe weed then. I don't know, or alcohol. Weed or alcohol are sort of things you can like there you walk a line, right? Like you can really go overboard with either, obviously.
Especially if you have if you're easily addicted. But I would say based on the psychoactive nature of things, alcohol would be the one that you would have the least like first of all, you have the greatest likelihood of going and becoming a drunk out of all those different things, you know, aside from becoming a smoker from nicotine.
Yeah.
I mean, so you do run a very high risk in terms of just damage that you could cause to yourself.
And then
but it's also something that responsible use is totally possible. Like there's an awful lot of responsible use of alcohol as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, way back when.
For someone who's, for example, for not you, but for someone who does, like if they knew they had an addictive personality, for example, like being mindful would just be, hey, hell no, I'm not doing any of that shit because that's bad. Like I'll get hooked. And then on the other hand, if you're someone like me, the opposite of addictive personality, just do everything you want. No. that's how it works. No, I'm kidding. But
hashtag do heroin.
Just know your own limits too, and know how you are. Like, or at least have an idea about how you exist, and what sort of tendencies you have, etc.
All right, we have been going for over 3 hours, so it's about time to wrap this up. This upcoming week, we're going to be talking about Homer's the Iliad, Book 1.
Awesome.
So we're going to actually start with getting a classical Western education, and we are in the way that it would actually be useful for us in the modern world. So
awesome.
If you're interested in getting some insights into humanity, if you're interested in learning how to deal with reality as opposed to trying to fabricate a fakey reality and somehow make it work, even though, you know, there are certain assumptions that wouldn't necessarily jive with things like human nature, or but basically if you're looking to be able to subsist within reality and to do well and to be able to work with what's going on as opposed to fighting the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a classical education might be for you. Sarah
Jeong needs a classical education, it sounds like.
Sarah Jeong needs to, like, remove her... She needs a cranioanal extraction.
The cranioanal extraction. Oh, yes. Yes, she is a bad case of headapoditis.
Headapoditis.
Yes, headapoditis.
Headapoditis. Well, anyhow, on that lovely note, thank you everyone who tuned in to watch. Thank you. Oh no, I'm just reading. I'm just all right. On that lovely note, before I have a chance to read any more of the chat, thank you all for showing up, and we'll definitely see you the next time you decide to show up. Tomorrow, we're going to be streaming. That would be Monday night for those of you in the Eastern Time Zone at 9 p.m. We're going to be streaming Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday all at the same time. But because it's morning for me, you get to have morning coffee with Matt, and too bad that it ain't necessarily morning for you.
I'm oppressed, Matt. You're oppressing me.
Well, you know,
I live in the U.S. It's nighttime, so you know.
Well, no, you know what? I don't care what you're going to say. Let the hate bring it on. It's never gonna bother me anyway. Goodbye.